There we go. And the seconds are rolling. Okay, we want to just jump in?
Yeah, just
Okay.
just let her go, buddy. Let her rip. In a world ravaged by the console wars, where the wandering hordes of degenerate fanboys destroy any chance of reasonable discourse, two bros stand in the gap, beating down backlogs and breaking the accursed cycle of hype. They are the Backlog Breakdown, and they're here to issue a firm settle down.
That was awesome. That was fantastic. It's amazing what happens when you prep for the opening bit.
I was actually thinking, like, you know what? Like, I could tool around with that script a little bit more, and we could just turn it into a regular, we could just record a regular, like, pretty much default opening.
That's true. We totally could. The only counterpoint to that is that we've been doing this for a few years, and every time it's different. So, I mean, if we want to change that and just go with that that's fantastic.
I mean, but how many times in the last like year have we just come in and we're like, I got nothing, and we're just like, I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
That's true. I mean, but I'm thinking back on times like when we had Wes on for Persona 5 and we did that whole opening. That was really cool. But maybe we could just do that every once in a while when we think of something cool. But yeah, have the deep. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll workshop that. But hey, I'm Nate. You're Josh.
Yep,
and
Josh.
This is the Backlog Break. Nate, talk pretty. I'm already like, hey, I read my little script without flubbing it, and that's it. That's all I'm good for tonight.
I didn't even have to fix it in post.
No editing in post with that. Everything else probably. But this is the Backlog Breakdown. And tonight, we're joined by longtime friend of the show, Micah Gear Solid.
Hello, it's me. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for hopping on, man. Tonight, we will be talking about, it's a bit of the state of play. It's also kind of, I think to you guys, I pitched it, or maybe in the Discord, I can't remember, but I pitched it as the good, the bad, and the just plain perplexing. But
I like it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. But before we sort of get into our main topic, you know what, Josh? It's been
2 weeks since I talked to you.
It's been 2 weeks since I talked to you. Wow.
That's awesome. I completely agree, Megan. 100%.
Savage.
She says no.
She said no.
I will edit that in post so that is a lot louder so everyone can hear that.
Everyone can hear the no. But yeah, it has. Well, and I don't know that it's actually been 2 weeks, but it's time for that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Micah, since it has seriously been more than 2 weeks since we last talked to you, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing quite well. I guess same old, just raising these 3 kids that I have. But that takes up a lot of time. Same old, just kind of getting used to the new house that we got, I guess moved in late this past summer. But yeah, things are well. Still kind of getting unpacked and settled in, I guess. But yeah, ready for Christmas. The Christmas tree is up. I guess that's something we did the past couple of weeks. Went and got the tree, got the lights and all the ornaments and all the decorations up and all that stuff. Yeah, kids are excited. Elf on the Shelf is in full swing, sadly. So just ready for Christmas. We're doing well on like Christmas presents this year, like as far as getting them in a timely manner. So I'm proud about that. Ready for Spider-Man to come out soon.
Ooh, yeah. No Way Home. It looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, that's me. I mean, just Yeah, doing well, doing well. I had a little bit of I'll get into this later, maybe in the in what he'd been reading stuff. But my aunt passed away
Hmm.
3 4 weeks ago now, so I've been kind of dealing with some of that and going through some mourning. But yeah, doing well. God is good, and yeah, I can't complain.
Hmm.
If I remember right, you said it was pancreatic cancer.
That is correct. Uh huh.
Yeah. That well,
Hmm.
and I think I shared this with you, but probably about 10 years or so ago, my Aunt Laura passed from pancreatic. And it was like one of those things where she hadn't been feeling well for a couple of months. She goes to the doctor to get sort of checked out. And they're like, you have stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Hmm.
Oof.
And I mean, the following 2 or 3 months just destroyed her.
Hmm.
It was, you know, that was tough. Like she and I I mean, I'm pretty close with my mom's side. Not so
Sure.
much my
Yeah.
dad's, but it's not that like it's not anything super weird. It's just
Yeah, this is how my aunt was. It was my mom's only sister. It was
mm,
quite close to her. It was my mom's best friend, so just really hard.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
she had I think 5 months right in there from
Mm,
diagnosis
Wow,
to death. So
man.
not a lot
yeah,
of time.
yeah. That's I mean that is like, and I think like what's so hard is that they almost it's like by the time they catch it, almost every time it's too late. It's
Mm.
just too late. Like it comes on, it's super aggressive, and it's just like, not game over. Like,
Yeah.
Mm.
but
Yeah, but
yeah,
to kind of lift the spirits back up, I don't leave
yeah,
much of it
yeah,
down. She did know the Lord,
yeah. Praise God.
100%. So that is fabulous. When she that she's her husband has already passed away, so she's
Mm,
Mm.
rejoining with him and everything. So it was just a good celebration. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, that was kind of just been on my mind, obviously the last
yeah,
few
yeah,
weeks. So
yeah,
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 totally, totally. Wow.
yeah. Um. Well, I'm gonna dip us back down into the trenches for a minute because
uh
yeah,
oh,
no, well, it's last week Megan ended up flying out to the Midwest to attend the funeral of our friend Tim, who
Mm.
we not refractionally wow. Again, Nate talked pretty, but we called him Pa, and he was basically very much a father to Megan.
Mm.
Um and so that's kind of been tough. We're glad that she was able to be out there. And I mean, he was a believer. They actually Megan met him and his wife Felicia, aka Ma, while she was doing short term mission stuff in Haiti and the Bahamas.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so and they were actually Ma and Pa were actually missionaries for a while in the Bahamas working at an AIDS camp. And they adopted a couple of kids. And but yeah, I mean it's like one of those things where it sucks. Like you, and it's like, yeah, like we know that he's in his reward, but
Mhm.
like still sucks. Like death
yeah,
sucks. Like
Yep.
just
yep,
someday. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I mean it's like you said, he knew the Lord, and so it's like, yeah, that's definitely one in the win column, but that's a hard win.
right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
how about you, Josh? How have you been? And he's
Oh
like,
man.
uh.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Now. Everything that I was about to complain about seems so petty.
Well, here, I'll make it real easy for
I'm
you.
kidding.
I'm in the middle of peak, and it sucks.
Yeah.
I hate my life right now.
No, and
No.
and that I mean that's sort of along the lines that I was not that I hate my life, just that there's quite a lot going on between now and Christmas. So I'm in the mode of just like head down and power through,
Yeah.
like make sure I'm getting the stuff that I need to done. Lots of like extra days and stuff like that. For just for different things that are going on. I I agreed to preach a couple times. So in hindsight, it's like now wasn't the best. It was not like I did the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So the last recording we did was right the day before Thanksgiving. So that Sunday I was
Mhm.
preaching, and then I'm preaching for the 26th. But that's going to be pre-recorded. That's a whole other thing. Anyways, is just like with the combination of holidays and extra stuff that's going on, that probably wasn't the wisest decision to take on more stuff. But so I'm kicking myself. It's like Josh in the past. Like, come on, get your stuff together.
It's like if you could yell at yourself in the past, you totally would.
Yeah, exactly. But no, so it's good things, and like I love working at the church too. So I'm not complaining about it. I did use the word complaining, but I'm being facetious because I do enjoy it. It's just a lot. And so,
Yeah.
but then I get the week between, for the most part, the week between Christmas and New Year's off. So I'm super stoked for that. Like, very much looking forward to that. Right now, and I'm looking forward to other things that we have going on too. Just a lot of extra time up at work. So it requires me to budget my time even more. Last week of school too. So there's that. Then for this semester at least. So just an accumulation of things. It's like, okay, just got to get this done. Check it off the list. Okay, next thing, let's go. Kind of a thing. Like no slowing down. Let's do this. But anyways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's I don't know if it's, as I've just gotten older, I don't know if it's because of like what I do, but it's like December just turns into a blur. Like it's the time of year where it's just like, head down, just like power through it. I actually, sort of going back, I had what I called, it happens at least once every peak. I call it the breaking, where it's just, I have one day that is so awful. And like, I'm just like, so just bent out of shape. And then it's like, as soon as that day's finished, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, this is going to suck. Like, just lean into it. And it's like, I'm just like Monday was bad. Like I had to cut mail. I came back, like didn't get everything done for the day. And I was mad. And it wasn't even that much. It was like, I had to cut 4 stops, but I was fuming, and I was just like a train wreck. And as soon as I like unloaded and just like got everything done and sort of got stuff, and it was like, as soon as I was off the clock, it was like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, no, this is where we're at. Like, okay. Like head in the game. Like, and it's and it's just like, there's a like crucible. And then like, as soon as you sort of get out on the other side, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like all that stress and everything. And I was like,
yeah.
But
yeah.
Now I'm just like, nah.
I know for me, it didn't hit me until like last week, or excuse me, like the beginning of this week, like how much was on the calendar. And it's not just the events that are on the calendar. It's like the prep for those events too. Like stuff that I need to do, whether it's renting equipment, whether it's setup, whether it's rehearsals, things like that. So like an event turns into like 4 days of things that I need to do. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Especially, So we have like this special presentation of story and song, Sunday afternoon. And it's like, it's going to be awesome. I'm stoked for it, but it is choir, orchestra, and a whole band as well. And so there's like 2 rehearsal dates for that. I got to make sure I've got all the slides and media and stuff, make sure I'm setting lights for where they're going to be. And then there's the changeover because it's at 4:00. Like our second service is at 11. We get out about 12:30. Then it's like changeover on stage, all inputs and outputs, checking lines, all that stuff. Slight rehearsal, make sure everything's ready so that we can go by 4:00. It's like, oh, that's pretty tight. And
that's
like dress rehearsal the
buddy.
day before on Saturday. So yeah, exactly. It's like on paper, oh yeah, no big deal. It's just one like Christmas event. And then it's like, oh no, wait, no, there's a lot more that goes into this. And I should have planned for that a little bit more. I don't know. So anyways, like I said, it's good stuff. I do enjoy it. It just, it took me by surprise, and I had to kind of sit down and be like, okay, this is all that I need to do. Cause it was totally like a recognition of like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like this is too much. How am I going to do this? And I had to sit down with my calendar to kind of block things out and be like, okay, this is doable. It's a lot, but it's doable. So let's do it. So anyways.
Well, if you guys don't have any objections, you know what I think it is? That it's time. It's time, boys.
It's time. It's time for
It's time for the backlog report.
Welcome to the backlog report.
So,
who's reporting first?
Well, I was going to say, since Micah is our guest,
Let's do it.
Why don't you go first, buddy?
Our guest.
Why, thank you. I've got some games here that I've been playing. I've been playing a lot lately.
Nice.
And it's kind of a bunch of different things. I've been playing. So Halo Infinite recently just came out. It's the new hotness that all the kids are talking about. You know, that Halo and that Master. So actually, I've been going back through the old Halos with my daughter,
nice.
Who of course has never experienced them. So we are going through those co-op campaigns, and we're having a blast.
That's
so
awesome.
We played Halo 1, and we're in the middle of Halo 2 right now, and she's just loving it. So we're going to go through 3 and the rest of them and finally get to Infinite, I guess, whenever we get to it. But yeah, playing the old Halo games through the Master Chief Collection, which, by the way, is very good. I've never really dabbled in
out that way.
It did not, but I'm like,
it is good.
you can with the press of a button toggle between the old graphics and the new kind of upgraded graphics, and man, it is a real difference. Even Emily, my wife, was commenting on it. I was showing her, and it's a real cool package.
So why would you play with old graphics?
That's what my daughter wants to know.
Okay. I get like for the sake of comparison, like that's pretty cool.
Just for purists and people that for nostalgia reasons, I can see definitely why. But yeah, it's a neat package they put together there. Been hearing a lot of good things about this Guardians of the Galaxy game from Eidos Montreal via Square Enix, and man, I gotta say, this thing looked bad pre-release. Like I was like, this game looks bad. Like it looks bad. Sorry, I'm only just using that same word over again. But
no, it did not. It looked super generic,
and not in the Michael Jackson way, but
no,
actually.
Yeah. But it got some buzz after it came. Well, it got some good reviews first and foremost. And then I saw some people talking about it, so I was like, okay, we pick it up on sale. Shoot, this game is good, man. Like real good, way better than it has any warrant being.
Nice.
Excuse me. The script, though I feel like it's like both good and kind of lazy at the same time. It's really, really impressive, especially for a video game. That's the whole overall plot, and the banter that the Guardians have with one another is really great. And yeah, so there's dialogue choices you can make that affect things and change relationships and things that may happen in the game. Good action that I saw a lot of people compare it to Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't know if I necessarily see that. I guess I see the similarities, but I never at any point thought Final Fantasy VII Remake while I was playing the game. Good combat though. It's really pretty game. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is a certain recommend if you're just in for that sort of that traditional over the shoulder kind of narrative driven action game like that.
Nice.
So yeah, good game there. The last main one I'm going to talk about is I got the opportunity to get an early review code for a game called Heavenly Bodies. For the Reformed Gamers, and this is a game coming out from 2 Point Interactive. A little indie developer out of Australia, I believe. And this game is like you're a 70s astronaut, like a cosmonaut out in like a space station. You have various jobs that you have to maintain on the space station, like getting the radar back online, or getting taking out the old plants and replanting plants to get oxygen going for the space station, things like that. And you control your two arms with the left and right joystick. Okay. And you kind of grab with the shoulder buttons, and you kind of grab on things, and there's no gravity, and you're trying to get around to do things, and it's a lot of fun. It reminded me, this is a little bit of an unfair comparison, but it reminded me a little bit of Octodad, Dadley's Catch. If you're familiar with that game and how it is kind of on purpose, like frustrating to control a little bit. This game can be frustrating to sort of wrap your head around the controls, but if you can sort of penetrate through that, there's some good puzzles and like a good sort of set piece there, and some good gameplay to work through.
Nice.
So yeah, that's a good recommendation. If you like check it out, you think you'll like it, you'll probably like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a cool game. Lastly, just real quick, I booted up Death's Door. I heard a lot of good things about Death's Door.
Oh, dude, I'm looking at that game and I'm just like, yeah, Nate wants.
Mm-hmm. I've only played maybe an hour and a half, so I don't have a lot to say on it. But so far, it's like indie game comfort food.
Mm.
I haven't come, and maybe there's something that's gonna blow my mind. I haven't come across anything that's like new, like mechanically, gameplay wise. That's like, oh wow, this is new. It's all like Bastion or Hyperlight Drifter. Like you just know it's just like right up that. It's like, yeah, give me that. Give me
Well,
all
this
these
is this.
things.
It's the same team that did what was it, Titan Souls?
That is correct, I think, Nate. Don't quote us on that, but yeah, I feel like that's
Titan Souls was like a cool little jam. I was not any good at it, and I did not get very far in it. Actually, I should probably just like put that back on my Vita and start playing it again. But like that was a cool game, and it was like, yeah. But this is like, yeah, I looked at it like stylistically. I'm digging the aesthetic. I'm digging the vibe that game's throwing off, like, and I just keep hearing good things about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good so far. So far it's not blowing my mind or anything, but that's kind of just the thought I had in that first hour. I was like, this is very comfortable to play, and I like it. So yeah, good game right there, Death's Door. As far as what I've been reading, unfortunately, not a whole lot, as in nothing really. I mean, I've been reading scripture, but no like actual books and stuff. So I wanted to bring something that the Lord just been speaking, kind of over me. But I mentioned my aunt passing away at the top of the show, and I've been, I wrote her my final note to her while she was still with us. I included 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1-5, which I'll read now because scripture is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
2 Corinthians 5, 1-5 says, "For we know that if the tent that is our earthly home is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this tent we groan, longing to put on our heavenly dwelling, if indeed by putting it on we may not be found naked. For while we are still in this tent, we groan, being burdened, not that we would be unclothed, but that we would be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. He who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has given us the Spirit as a guarantee." The Lord sort of led me to that scripture to give to my aunt, and it turns out it's already one of her favorite passages. I didn't realize at the time. It made its way into her funeral service. And it's just been a real buoy for me right now. I know she's at home with her maker, and the scripture is just kind of it just kind of talks about all that, and yeah, it's just kind of what the Lord's been sort of washing over me with, and sort of speaking to me lately. So yeah, just been kind of in a mourning period. Haven't done a whole lot of other reading outside of scripture, but yeah, that's been kind of my passage that I've been kind of bathing in for a while now, for a couple of weeks. But anyway, yeah, that's what I've been reading there.
That's awesome,
And
dude.
then,
Thank you for sharing that. That's really encouraging.
Yeah, for sure. And lastly, and on a lighter note, as sort of mentioned it earlier, as far as like watching things, me and Emily have gone back and been watching the Spider-Man movies, getting ready for Spider-Man No Way Home. So we've been watching the old ones, the not like the Tobey Maguire ones, but like the recent Tom Holland ones and stuff. I just want to say,
gotcha,
for the record, No Way Home, excuse me, Far From Home, pardon, the second Spider-Man movie is so much inferior to Homecoming. It's not even close.
Okay.
It really isn't. Spider-Man Homecoming is
banger,
so much
dude.
better.
Yeah, Homecoming is a banger. Like
the
Far
script
takes
a noticeable drop.
Like, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, Far From Home is a pretty interesting, and it's a pretty interesting story. But it's definitely not as strong as Homecoming. Homecoming is just way gooder.
But that's what I've been consuming. Yeah,
I dig it.
How about you, Josh?
Good stuff. Okay, I only have two things. Okay, one game that I've been playing. Everyone knows what game that I've been playing. It's more Shin Megami Tensei 5. I'm a little bit over 50 hours at this point. because I'm a madman.
Yeah.
And I'm still loving it. I can see some of the things that people are saying about the story. Like it's the pacing is kind of strange in the game, but I'm enjoying it so much that it doesn't take away from it. It's still so oppressive feeling in general, that I don't know, that the atmosphere and everything just continues to hook me, and I'm still really enjoying it. Still getting my face beaten in by different bosses and things that are happening, because the last area has like 4 different bosses in it, and so you choose, hey, who do you want to fight first, who do you want to die to first, kind of a thing. So yeah, no, I'm really really enjoying it. Still haven't beaten it. Still don't know, don't understand what wizardry Wes did to beat it in a weekend, because I am
He's
still
like on
plugging
his
away.
third playthrough too, dude.
Yeah, I think he did all 4 endings at this point. I'm
That's
pretty sure he's
disgusting.
like done with the game. He probably hasn't even put in
Witch
as much time as
magic.
I have. Yeah. Yeah, I think his first run was like 17 hours. I don't understand it. Don't know what happened there. Yeah, I'm nowhere near that. I'm gonna yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
Dude,
from what he said, I'm still a ways away from the end of the game.
so what's the gameplay like? I know it's like an
Mhm.
RPG, but is
Yes.
it,
Yeah,
because it
it's
almost like the way that like they're like it's open world and it's this and it's that, and I know it's like a Shin Megami Tensei game, so
yeah.
there's definitely, you've got like the bargaining. Is it there a party system, or is it
Yes.
more action RPG ish, or what?
No, it's still very traditional. Well, traditional in the sense of like the past few games. He uses the press turn system. It's you and then 3 other demon companions in your party. You're fusing them together. Yeah, you're negotiating
Okay,
to get new demons, stuff like that. But the exploration, it's not open world, but it's similar to open world in that like there's tons of stuff to do on the map. The areas that you're in, they're big open areas, and so in that sense it's a bit like open world. But if excuse me, it's have you played any of the Xenoblade Chronicle games?
no,
Okay, because it's more similar to that, where like you enter this new area and you can kind of go wherever you want to, but of course there's going to be some enemies that are way over leveled for you. So like, don't go over there. So it kind of leads you to where to go, and then at other times it kind of, okay, feel free to go and just look for things. Because the battle, like the combat, the enemies are pretty difficult in general. It to me, it makes me want to go explore and pick up all the
yeah.
power-ups and stuff that you can, because you need every advantage that you
I
can.
mean, it's that grind and then loot vacuum thing. It's like you got to
Yes.
pick up everything because you're gonna need all of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I know certain people who didn't play it that way. Still don't understand how. But that yeah, that's the general kind of loop of the game. So it's compared to open world. It's not really open world, because there are different areas that you go to that you like warp between. But they are huge, like open areas, if that makes sense.
Kind of like Near Automata at all? Open world
Yeah,
game?
well, yes. Yeah. That one does kind of railroad you into those different. So yeah, basically when you open different areas that like take loading, it's that's sort of it's kind of that same idea. So yeah, it is kind of similar to that. But yeah, standard JRPG combat. Well, at least for this series.
Yeah, it's
So you actually do
standard SMT combat.
yes,
Okay.
and you
How's
do
the
actually.
writing?
That's the thing, is the way it doesn't give you that much like main story. It basically does story dumps. So you're exploring, doing stuff for quite a while, then you beat a boss, or you come to an area where there is a boss, and then you get some story, then you beat the boss, and maybe it opens up another area, or maybe you get another story dump of things that are going on. Um, so it's not super involved the entire time, but the game like starts off on such a weird note, like almost like a post-apocalyptic area. Basically, Tokyo is not what it seems. It's just a facade. All of Tokyo has been destroyed, and now you're like going through desolated Tokyo, demons
Yeah.
running around everywhere, kind of a thing. So you're just kind of like in the aftermath of that, trying to figure out what happened and where you're supposed to go from here. And so there's not a ton of different like stories going on or anything like that. Yeah, there's not a ton of story, but what's there is pretty intriguing, and the way that they play, the way that they also have kind of like the demon factions warring against each other is really interesting as well. But I'm still not done with the game, so I know there's more there. So I'm really enjoying it. So
I see on How Long to Beat for completionists, it has 102 hours. So.
I mean, that's probably right. There are some things that I'm doing that are just insane. I'm trying to get as many, like, this one has a lot more quality of life features to it, which is great, because again, I feel like every advantage that you can get that is going to be great, because man, yeah, some normal trash mobs can mess you up if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So I have been going back. Basically, if you can fuse a demon, think of like well, no, in Pokemon you can't fuse Pokemon. It's like trading. No, you can take two demons, mix them together.
You can breed Pokemon.
Yeah, that's true, but they're always the same type of Pokemon, aren't they? Anyways,
I don't, dude. I know very
goes as
little
far.
about Pokemon. I just know, like, yeah.
But anyway, so you fuse demons together in this game. You have a compendium of all the different possibilities, and basically, if you have ever had the demons to fuse another one, it will show up in your compendium. It'll just say that it's unregistered. And so you can go through that thing and see what you need. Like, you can go back and negotiate with another one to fill out that entry in the compendium. So it doesn't show you everything unless you have like all the ones that you have been able to have. And so, like, because of that, it just makes it way easier to complete that compendium, which opens up the possibility for newer, stronger ones. And so I have been, every once in a while, I'll stop playing kind of like the main story and go back and get other ones. Or you can also purchase previous demons from the compendium in order to just fill that out so that I can like get better ones.
100%. I would do
so
that. Yep.
It's so I'm like constantly going back and doing that again, every advantage that you possibly can have. So even 100 hours seems like you could probably put more time into it if you really had to. But then again, there's New Game Plus. Maybe that
does it have difficulties or just one difficulty?
No, there are definitely difficulties. I'm just playing on normal. So I know there is an easy mode, and then there's like I can't remember, a safety mode that's DLC. I was just like, no, like, I've played an SMT game before. I'm just going to play on normal. There is a hard mode. And if you start on hard mode, if you ever take it off hard mode, you can't go back to it. So it's basically like you have
hardcore mode.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And I'm like, I'm not even going to mess with that. No. Even as a big fan of the series, like, that scares me. But anyway, so I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, I've been rambling. Yeah, I'm sure we will have more of a discussion with other people who have played the game in the future. But anyway, so that's the only game that I've been playing. Haven't really been watching anything. I did start a book, however, and I just started listening to it. And this is one that I think I'm gonna hopefully either an ebook or a physical book pick it up, because I'm really enjoying it. So I've been listening to a lot of 372 pages. We've talked about that podcast a lot. So I've been listening to a lot of like bad books. Mm-hmm. And so to start listening to a very well-written book has been very refreshing. And that's the only time I would ever describe this book as refreshing. This book is called The Road by Cormac McCarthy.
Oh my gosh. So you're like, this is refreshing. I'm like, no, dude. But no, I get what you're saying.
It's just very well written. But my goodness, it kind of like kicked me in the stomach like almost immediately, because it's a story about a man and his son. And in kind of a post-apocalyptic world, something's happened to the world. Stuff is like burned down, and so now they're basically just trying to survive. Okay, I haven't finished the book yet, so no spoilers. But it is heavy, and as a man who has a 6-year-old son, it like hits you in the feels time and time again. So I'm very much enjoying it, and I want to read whether it's physical copy or ebook. I'm enjoying it so much again, just because it's well written. That I'll probably pick up a copy sometime. It's a very good audiobook that I'm listening to. The reader actually gives different voices to the man and his son, so it's easier to kind of tell who's talking. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying it, but man, it's heavy.
Yeah, Cormac McCarthy is like one of those guys. Like his style is impressive. It's like
Mm-hmm.
he's very talented. But yeah, man.
And it's funny too. Okay, so like I said, been listening to some bad books, which are great. In comedy is comedy, and so to go from comedy to something super serious, yeah, it's a different experience. But it's like with someone who can actually use the language and it knows the conventions of how to use the language really well, and then can break that occasionally for
Yeah,
emphasis or for accent, is really like, it's cool to actually notice those things, because when that's done just because the writer is
terrible.
naive or terrible. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a
Horrible.
nice way to say
Just
it.
no, they're hacks.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, it's funny because I've noticed even like a phrase or two that's like, oh, would they have pulled this out in 372 he could have said this a bit shorter, but it's like, no, there's actually a purpose behind the way
Yeah.
that he describes certain things. Like at one point he described a street, like looking at a street as peopled, like talking about how there's a crowd of people in the street. And I thought that was like a really interesting turn of phrase to use a noun as a verb in that, or excuse me, not, what would that be? A description. Would that be an adjective?
Adjective.
Anyways, I feel stupid for even bringing it
Well,
up now.
I mean, people is an adequate. Like that's a word. So
Is that a common term? Okay.
not
Okay.
common, but it's like one of those things where it's probably fallen out of favor. Like it's
Hmm.
not, but it yeah. When something's peopled, it just means it's occupied. It's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
And yeah.
it's much more poetic, much more literary.
Well, right, and it's just like it's not like that he's drawing emphasis to that. It just stuck out in my mind as as I'm listening to it. Like, this guy actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's not just throwing stuff out or using a thesaurus like some other writers
Mm,
do occasionally. But
thesaurus
anyways,
diving.
that's enough for me.
All
Nate,
right.
what do you have to report
Well,
on?
I will sort of. I'm going to pull up my tome here. As
Oh,
far as games go, I did beat Sword and Sorcery. Now apparently there's like a little meter. I'm only at 96%, and like I could 100% the game, but to be honest, I
mm,
kind of don't care. I did a
wow.
little bit of a review on it, and when I sort of logged it for my beatdown score and all that other stuff, and it's fine. Like this is like one of those games that like if you can pick it up for a couple bucks and you want to play through something for a few hours, it's a really cool music, um, really cool style. Frankly, the game is kind of incoherent.
Oh,
It's not not writing wise, because the writing's actually kind of clever, but like the actual gameplay at times is like really kind of, it's very much indie mobile game from 10 years ago,
hmm.
and it's fine. I mean, but for the most part, I think it's a pretty safe pass on this one. It's
Yeah,
just like
I can back that up. I started playing it 5 years ago, 6 years ago on
Hmm.
mobile, and it was like it was for a mobile game. It was as far up my alley as a game could be, and I booted it up thinking I was going to like it, and I was just bored to tears.
uh,
And I did got maybe a third of the way through it, I think.
yeah. I mean, it was like one of those things where I almost sort of just walked away from it because I was like, but it was like, I knew that I was at one point in time, I was like, I was looking at, I was like, I'm halfway through it and I've only put like 3 hours into this thing. Yeah, I'll just finish this and like be,
Sure.
because it's like that way. It's like, it's kind of like the, it's not, I wouldn't say like I've heard the term used to describe like aggressively mediocre or anything like
Mhm.
that. And this is not that, but it's just kind of like it's middle of the pack, but it's sort of on the bottom end of that. And it's like if you have it, like cool, like play it, but it's not going to like blow your mind or anything. It's like eh. So um so let's see I did fire up the the Orton. Oh, geez. I was like trying the Order 1886 again for a little
Oh yeah.
bit. I'm really like, and that's pretty similar. Like, I'm just like, this game is really kind of cool on a lot of levels, but I'm just not enjoying it. Like,
Mm.
it's pretty vacuous. Like, the gunplay is is good. The gunplay is fun. There's not enough of it, and there's just a lot of like that game is like there's some stuff that's really cool. It's like very visually striking. It's like it's very interesting. It's one of those games that I would say like the bones of this game are great.
Mhm.
But it needed fleshed out. It really needed some extra something, like a little more to do in the world. Put in some more sort of gunplay segments, like make it so that it's a little more interactive. And I'm going to finish it because it's like it's not that long, and I'll just
Mhm.
sort of like wrap it up, button it up, and then I can sort of like probably. I was thinking about going for the platinum, but then the more I looked at the trophy list, I was like, I enjoy this game enough to like go back and get the plat? And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
I think it's good and it's really interesting, but it's like it's also kind of empty. Um, so there's that. Right before we started recording, I had fired up Metroid Dread again, and I was playing a little bit of that sort of in the interim. I'm not super far into that, but it's a 2D Metroid game, and I like those. I just like
Mhm.
2D. I like Metroidvanias, and so this is like flagship Metroidvania, folks. So uh, it's in the name. But so don't have too many thoughts on that. I'm sure that I'm gonna like be super into it because everybody who's played it is like, this thing's the best thing ever, and I'm like, no, okay, yeah. Um,
Mhm.
but what I've really been sort of the bulk of my playtime over the last couple of weeks has been Returnal. Returnal
Yes.
is just like it is Nate Bait the game. Um, I just I don't have like here's the thing. I last year my game of the year was Hades,
Mhm.
and I feel really weird coming into this year. And we're gonna actually maybe hit on this. I'm just gonna tell you like right now, boys, Returnal, even though I haven't beaten it, is a very strong contender for my game of the year.
Interesting.
Just it's sort of like just like Hades, they sort of get the loop down. Just it's like a perfect sort of like even on the runs where I suck and the RNG is against me and all that other stuff. I'm like, dude, like this game's great. I'm
Mhm.
not getting like I'm like there's that constant like one more run, and then it's 1 a.m. and I'm going go to bed,
Mhm.
dummy. Micah actually hopped on that one night and we were sort of talking and he was watching me play. And that
Yeah,
was one of my better runs. I think,
you did really
Nice.
good.
yeah. Couple nights later, I was actually hopped on a party chat with Parker and he and I were talking as I was playing and I broke through the second biome into the third biome. So
Nice.
I, I'm really enjoying that game. It's, dude, um, when I'm done with it, Micah will schedule out either a bite sized or just a full blown episode, and we'll just make Josh listen to us sort of, you know,
Yeah.
be ranting fanboys. But anyways,
if you don't want to send me your PS5 so I can play it, then okay.
I mean, I'll share play so you can watch me play it. But yeah, no, but yeah, and I don't want to sort of succumb to like recency bias or anything, but like it's hitting me the same way. Like I've been at it for a few weeks. It's hitting me the same way Hades did. I loved Hades. I'm really into Returnal. It's great. It's great. Like
Nice.
it's legit. There's so many good things about that game. This is what I will say, and I think it's very understated. And I'm not the only person who's ever said this. I mean, it's understated in the fact that it's not super obvious. I think a lot of people have mentioned this, but in a way, I think this game could run on a PS4, but it would severely diminish the experience. The thing that is so great about this game is like the almost instantaneous loading. Like you die, and like 3 seconds later, the next run is sort of like you're back into it. Nice. And without that, I really think this game is not as sticky or as enjoyable or whatever. Like even with Hades, it was actually a lot easier for me to walk away from Hades, a run in Hades, because like there is a bit of a pause there. There's a bit of a load, a bit more of a load than there is on this. And I'm actually interested in coming back and really revisiting Hades on the PS5 and compare. Anyways, on topic, but like it is one of those things where the super quick load times actually, I think, are almost a necessity. And it's like, it's one of those things where, like, again, it's not a super flashy showpiece, but I think it is absolutely sort of a necessary step for like this is sort of a proving ground for a lot of the next gen stuff. Like, why do we need a PS5? This is why, because like this is going to allow us like, and again, it's even sort of, it goes back to, I was listening to David Jaffe talk about like Demon Souls and how he doesn't really like the Soulsborne games. None of them have been super sticky. And he was actually saying he got into Demon Souls because, seriously? My wife just texted me, your mom.
Gotcha.
Jeez, edit that out in post. Oh, geez. But, anyways, but he was talking about how coming back to Demon Souls on PS5, that the game was actually a lot stickier because it was like, as soon as he died, he was almost right back into the game. Whereas if you don't like, and I think we've just sort of taken it for granted that like, oh, just sit and like wait for screens to load. But I'm saying like, dude, like this is significant. So, that's all I've really been playing. Like I said, the bulk of it's just been Returnal, and that game's great. As far as books go, I've still been listening to Don Quixote. The version that I'm listening to on Audible is really good. And the narrator does the same thing. He has like different voices for some of the characters. And it's not like a ton, but it's like, there's a lot of like exchange between Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. And so there's like, he has different voices for each one of them and stuff like that. And it's, I don't know. It's fun. Like, dude, I'm on book 2, which, so there's a bit of history in there, but when the guy who originally wrote Don Quixote, and his name escapes me, he wrote it, and it was it's the proto novel, right? And so he writes it, and then if I remember correctly, geez, I can't even speak right, and I'm trying to think, and it's gonna get weird. Let's make it weird. But basically, if I remember right, like the book was actually a huge success, but his publisher, because it was sort of the initial novel, like his publisher basically took the book and took all the money. Like this guy did not make a ton of money off of Don Quixote, right? Even though it was a huge success. Well, somebody wrote an unofficial sequel to the book, and it wasn't him. And so like, anyways, like, so in book 2 of Don Quixote, book 2, he actually sort of like talks a little bit of smack on the guy who wrote this counterfeit Don Quixote sequel. And it's just very clever. It's one of those books that I'm like, dude, I really enjoy it. So it's kind of like one of those
Nice.
things I definitely recommend. As far as any other media, really just the only thing I've been sort of consistent with, I'm still watching Bakuman. I'm almost through the first season. So just to let you know, Josh, like they've submitted the script for Detective Trap.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah. Anyways, I like that. I'm like, I will say the anime, I think like sometimes the animation is kind of like, but there's some actually really great still shots, and I love a lot of the character designs. Their editor or whatever, I love his design. Like, and there's actually a scene that I just watched between where it's their editor and their one rival's editor are at the bar, and they're eating and they're drinking and they're sort of like, and I'm like, that scene is immaculate. I was like, this is fantastic. Like if all of the series had like this level of like attention to detail, and I'm like, this would be. But anyways, Bakuman is great. I love it. I'm really enjoying
Characters are so good.
They're so good. They're so good.
It's cool how he takes even the stories that the characters are writing and kind of uses a bit of the, I guess, arcs or just the tension that's happening in the stories to the actual characters in the manga, which is it's really interesting.
It's very clever.
Yes, and one thing about the entire series, there's almost no bad guys. There's almost no antagonists. There are rivals. And so it makes it for, I don't know, it feels very wholesome. I'll use the internet word for it, of just kind of uplifting, like difficult at times, and very, very like you have that tension of just like, oh, what's going to happen? But there's never like I hate that guy. Sure, some characters are annoying. And some that like you just dislike for things that they do, but it's not like that person is evil. Kind of just
it's the only antagonist was that Kugi, as far as that dude sucked. Like, it was so like
he was just up his own. He was smoking his own supply.
He was a jagoff. Anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much been it. Just to sort of like round out the backlog report, my beatdown score is at -7 at this point in time.
Nice.
Yeah, I did get the -1 for beating Sword and Sorcery, but I've managed to pick up a couple things in the meantime. And if you guys are interested in seeing sort of what I've purchased and sort of what I've played as far as the beatdown stuff goes, that's all tracked on GG. We love GG. It's a great app. Charles is doing a heck of a job there. It's basically the letterbox for tracking your video game collections. Actually, there's a really great episode of TRG he just did with Logan. It's his first podcast appearance. At some point in time, I am totally going to strong arm him into like hopping on the mics with us. But we love Charles. We love the app. It's great. Yeah, check it out. So there's that bit of business is done. And speaking of like things we love, if you guys love what we do, just join. We have a Patreon. Think of it as a tip jar. It's one way for you to support us. Obviously you can do the sub, rate, and review, sharing is caring kind of stuff. But patrons do have a little bit of extra access to us. They get video feed of the podcast. They get uncut versions, early access. Micah has been pretty much like, I think like the day, like, I was like, but you, Paul, and Wes are actually the first 3 patrons that we had. And like the original 3, but like patrons just have more access to us. They have more access to sort of and helping to shape the show. It's just, again, there are some cool insider perks. I'm not going to tell you it's going to change your life, but it will. So, and on a final note, we are a member of the Playwell Network. And that the other podcasts include the Henshin Dad podcast, and well, I don't know, it was the Retro Station. Paul's got some other stuff sort of going. He's got like a bajillion podcasts, but we like what they do. We like what they did so much that we decided to partner with them, and we're really hoping that you'll enjoy their content too. So, with that being said, here's a word from our friends.
Boom, dude! When I saw what you were doing with that segue. Man, that was fantastic.
Good. Nate, you've been practicing.
Well, I've been sort of like thinking of like how because it's like I told Josh that I would take that, and so I think what I'm going to do is just from here on out, I'm always going to go last in the backlog report, and then when I do my beatdown score, I can just sort of roll right into the GG plug, and sort of. But yeah,
dude, I literally almost called you out after I did my backlog report. I'm like, hold on. Every time there's a guest, Nate kicks it to Josh, and I want Nate to go first, is what I almost said. But I didn't say that.
Well, at that point in time, if I had done that, probably what I would have done is just been like, and before, as we were wrapping it up, and be like, hey, before I forget, my beatdown score is at -7, blah, 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 blah. And then
one thing that's a pet peeve of mine is people do good transitions and good segues, but then the co-host or whoever's else on like calls it out as a good thing. It's like, and then like ruins the segue. Josh and I just did that visually. We're both like, oh yeah, that was great. Holy smokes!
Yeah,
thanks,
when
guys.
I saw, because I thought you were going to talk about at first I thought you were going to talk about Yakuza. But then you used your tip money to do that. So, and then when I saw you just go seamlessly into GG, I was like,
that was like, yeah,
dang, man.
No, that's I'd like to, I'm not trying to like Jesus juke it, but like, listen, that is the grace of God because I am not a smart man and I can't talk well. Nate talk pretty someday. There's a reason we say that. I
mean, this day. So, sorry, before we jump in, I didn't want to extend this out any longer, but I did have a question. So the patrons get this. Micah, did you finish Returnal?
Yes.
Do you have to do one long sitting in order to beat the game? I had heard that against it when it
been
first
updated
came out,
since then.
but it's like 6 hours that you need to.
The answer, it's a little bit of a spoiler for Nate.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. You don't have to.
No, it's not as long as you might think.
Okay.
Well, and part of it too, Josh, is like, so once you unlock the biomes, he dropped out.
Dun. What happened?
I don't know. Send him another invite.
No, I can see you and hear you. It just says offline.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yes,
I can hear you guys.
Can you, Nate?
You can't. No, he's
reconnected. It said.
Well,
it said reconnected.
His feed is his. I don't see his video.
I'm here.
Micah. Oh, you don't. Well, it just went out for a second, but now it's back up.
I clicked it off and back on again.
Okay, yeah. I can see and hear him the whole time, but I do see the waveform. It says offline.
Is it still offline? It said it was back now.
It's showing a little something from him, but
mine it's in the red.
When you unlock a new biome, you open a gate, and at that, like, there's a little thing at the gate that can sort of get you ready for the new level. But it is. So, well, why don't we take like an actual
pause?
Should I hit pause? Sort of. Maybe want to stop. I don't know what we want to do here. See if give Micah a chance to sort of like maybe. Micah, can you hear? Can you see him?
I can see both of you. I can see everybody. Yeah.
Can you see Micah?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Micah, can you hear me?
Yes, and I can see.
Yeah, he responded to you.
But you just can't.
Maybe close your browser, open it back up, and hit the link again. See what happens there.
Cool. Okay. I realized it.
I can see you now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You guys ready? And we're back. So, Micah, we had you. Well, I mean, it's been a while since you've been on, but two, we're sort of at the end of the. Oh no, he just dipped out again on me.
Yep. Yeah. I can still hear and see you. It just says offline.
I see like the tiniest little thing on his waveform.
Yeah, I can still see you. It still says offline on my end, though. Over by your name. Okay, participant is having a problem. Failed with error. Media recorders in an invalid state. Paused.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he gonna kick it off and come
Cool.
back?
Yep.
Cool.
Deedly dee. So.
No, well,
he did have a question while you were gone.
okay.
He asked if I would be against playing a little bit of a game. So he said it's like to set up some of the stuff that he has planned for the episode. And I was like, sure, why not? Like I don't have any problem. I like games.
I like games.
A podcast about games.
Yeah, pretty much. So one of the things chess club got postponed until January because I miss last week Tuesday sense. I didn't get back to the office until 5:45.
Yeah.
And then yesterday it's like I didn't leave the office until 5:30, and I just sent Quan, who's the coordinator over at the YMCA. I sent him text just saying, dude, and we talked for a minute, and I was like, why don't we? There you go.
Hey.
I mean, I don't know what to say. Internet connection seems fine.
What are you using? What browser are you using?
Chrome.
Okay.
Yeah. What I always use.
Yeah. I'm using Edge.
I'm a little nervous going forward, but
do you see how's his waveform look on your end, Josh?
I mean, well, the waveform itself, yeah, it's a little small, but I can bump it up in post. It's no big deal.
Always that way. When it is recording with TRG, it's always been that way. And Logan, I've heard him say that to other guests. Where it's like, oh, my waveform looks small. He's like, it looks small. He's like, no, it's fine.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I mean, I can hear you just fine.
Waveform. Yeah, it'll be fine. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. I would worry about the constant just dropping out. I don't know what to say.
Well, we'll just sort of plow on ahead, and it'll just make more work for Josh. But he's got a week and a half to tool around with it.
So, yeah, it's not like I'm doing anything else.
It's not like he's doing anything. It's not like he has a job or anything.
That's fine.
Oh, we'll see how it goes.
So, well, let's try this again.
Take two.
So, take two, and we're back. So, Micah, we've had you on. Oh, we've had you on before, but we're having you on tonight because one, it's been a while and you're a friend and we like talking to you, but also because it's sort of our year-end wrap-up. And I thought it might be interesting to sort of talk just about, I guess, the state of play is one way of putting it. But like I said, the good, the bad, and the just plain perplexing of 2021 and the games industry. So, I guess
massive of post-COVID delays, all that fun stuff in 2021.
So many good things, or not good things, but things. So why don't you just? Josh told me that you have a little something prepared for us.
Oh, well, not right off the top. We can get into it in a little
Okay.
bit once we start digging in. I'll try to find a spot to insert it in.
Okay. Well, then
But
we'll sort of. So the general premise for the listener is I asked you guys to basically come up with a good, a bad, and the what the heck moment for
Mhm.
each one of the big
Mhm.
three: Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. We can tackle those in any order, and then when we get through all of that, maybe we could potentially talk about some of our Game of the Year stuff. But and we do have a few sort of listener and Discord participant sort of questions and comments and stuff to sort of weave in and out. But
Mhm.
so why don't who wants to go first, and which one do you guys want to take on, Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft first? What do you think?
um, I kind of wouldn't mind starting with Nintendo.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Um, so yeah. Josh, how about you start first? I want to piggyback off of something you do, maybe.
Okay. Well, here we go then. In terms of, I guess the good for Nintendo. I mean, the thing that comes to mind for me is just the sheer amount of numbers on these Switch sales. I did not realize it until a few weeks ago that Switch right now it looks that it will overtake the lifetime series of the Wii, which blows
Yeah.
my mind. You know,
Yeah.
it's still millions away. Don't get me wrong, but we're only 4 years in at this point, and sales are still going strong. So I had no idea it was selling that well. Because I was around for the Wii and I remember the insanity that the Wii was, that it was very difficult to get. I don't feel like Switch has been traditionally difficult to get. Maybe at first it was, but they kind of got the ball rolling pretty quickly. You know, as I would say every manufacturer does. Maybe you might have some qualms with that. I'm sure there was limited supply at first to build up demand, as
Mm-hmm.
they tend to do. You could say they did that with Wii too. Whatever. But something like Wii, I felt like it felt more of like a cultural phenomenon where non-gamers were buying Wiis, and that was why it got so popular. I don't feel that Switch has necessarily hit that, but I mean sales numbers don't lie. So that's pretty amazing to me
Well,
that
it
it's
has the
selling so
benefit
well.
too of being, the hybrid, the handheld and the
Yeah.
Right.
and the
Yeah.
home
Mhm.
console. So I think many of those that simply want a handheld are getting it for that reason. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's playing a
Definitely.
part of it. And actually, Josh, you went ahead and queued up, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. I said I was gonna
Okay.
wait, and it was literally the first thing. So it's a good segue. You're talking about the lifetime sales of Switch, and you
Mhm.
guys might know this stuff. But I just wanted to quiz you real quick. Nintendo recently, for their last quarterly earnings, I think it was as of September 30th, 2021. I got the top 10 best selling Switch games lifetime right here in
Whoa.
front of me. And
Okay.
I'm curious if you guys can name off any of them and sort of rank them in any sort of way. So I'm not going to make it too hard. So just toss out any game. What's the top 10 selling Switch game that you think?
Mario Kart is probably number one.
I'm pretty sure I've heard that
Number
as
one
well.
and number two.
That is correct. With
Mm-hmm.
38 million copies sold, which is just staggering attach rate when you see that it's about at 100 million Switches, 38
Mhm.
million Mario Kart 8. So yeah, that's
That
right, number one.
On top of that, the game is a re-release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
my son is playing it right now on Wii U.
Well,
You know,
since you guys
like
crushed it, the first one out of the gate, what do you think is number 2 after Mario Kart?
Animal
Best selling.
Crossing.
Nay, you've
is it?
seen this list. Are you cheating, sir?
No, I just know that Animal Crossing set like did ridiculous numbers.
It's
It's
higher than Breath of the Wild?
yeah.
Yeah, Animal Crossing, which came
Whoa.
out in 2020,
Yeah.
has sold 34 million copies and is number 2
Whoa.
lifetime best-selling Switch game.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Um,
I knew it sold well, but wow.
any guesses for number 3?
I think it's Super Mario Odyssey. I think Odyssey edged out over Breath of the Wild,
Breath of the
but
Wild,
I'm
really?
not 100.
Incorrect.
I think it's like one of those two.
Okay.
Like they're like
Josh,
neck and
you have a
neck almost.
guess?
Well, I would go for Breath of the Wild. Is what
Okay,
I
Breath of
assumed.
the Wild is 4,
Okay.
Okay.
Odyssey is 6, number
Okay.
3 is Super Smash. Ultimate.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
so number 3 is a Smash Ultimate, 25 mil. Number 4, Breath of the Wild, 24 mil.
Okay.
Number 6 was Odyssey, 21. What do you think number 5 might be?
um. Gosh, this is probably not correct. Splatoon 2.
Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Mm.
Sword and Shield.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and round it out here. Super Mario Party number 7, 16 mil. Pokemon Let's Go
Never would have
Whoa.
Eevee and
guessed
Let's Go
either one of
Pikachu,
those.
13 mil. Splatoon 2 is number 9, 12 mil.
Okay.
And Ring Fit Adventure, number 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have
12
I
million.
wouldn't have guessed any of those. I knew, like I said, I knew that Mario Kart was number 1, and I was pretty sure Animal Crossing was number 2. I know that those numbers were like close too. Like Animal Crossing
Man.
was like bumping right up against Mario Kart. But Mario Kart's been like number 1 for like ever.
You kind of you have to think about this. Animal Crossing is now in an echelon for Nintendo to
Mhm.
where it is a mega franchise.
Yep.
Well, right. I mean, that's not something I would have assumed, except when it did release. I mean, I remember all the memes. So, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Well, I guess this will segue into what I was going to say is that for Nintendo, the good is kind of what you were saying, Josh. Man, they're just cooking. They're just selling Switches, man. They're really. I think every month when the NPD numbers come out, they're top. They're best selling, as far as units sold and that sort of thing. And when you look at this list that I just sort of went down with you guys, this top 10 best selling, they're just crushing it on the software. And it just it's like when you think about things like I know they just had the OLED Switch that came out, but like the rumored Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever the heck, and it's like Nintendo's laughing at that. It's like we don't need to do anything to we're selling all these games. We got Breath of the Wild 2 coming up. We probably have a new Mario coming up in the next 18 months. A new 3D Mario. I mean, like a big one. Stuff like
Metroid Prime Trilogy and Metroid Prime 4 are probably somewhere in the next couple of years. One of those two, if not both.
Yeah. So Nintendo, I think, is seeing some of their best success they've really ever seen. You talk about comparing it to the Wii, things like that. I mean, I know the whole entire like the whole audience of gamers is larger than it was when the Wii came out, and this is sort of one kind of playing out in that way. But I mean, heck, they're so healthy right now. They really can kind of not rest on their laurels, but as far as like hardware goes, just keep selling Switches, man. And you can just keep making good first party games. I think they're in a good spot.
That is really refreshing to hear because I don't get that from many other people, but that's kind of my take as well. Is with everyone talking about the Pro, I'm like, why? You don't need to segment your market.
As a little bit of pushback here, to use a buzzword, I really think, and I was actually listening to a Defining Duke, either Defining Duke or Defining Duke Ultimate, and something Cog said in that was that when Nintendo really has power, like when they're sort of on a comparable level as far as hardware goes, because they already have the properties to like crush. Now, just imagine if they were sort of pushing some of that edge just a little bit further, like quicker load times. They could do more physically. I mean, just sort of to a bit of a whatever, but with Breath of the Wild, I really think the reason they couldn't get a hook shot in is because physically they can't make it. The engine can't support it. I think that there's a lot of witch magic going on under the hood with that anyways. And I don't know if that's held back because it was a Wii U and Switch title, but that's a very sort of advanced game in a lot of ways. And I have to wonder if maybe something like a hook shot wasn't put in place because it would be so sort of taxing on the physics engine. And again, this is me sort of talking out of my rear end. I don't really know per se, but it's imagine if like they just had this a little more juice under the hood. Some of the stuff. So, but and I would love to, I mean, I'm with you guys. They don't need it. And in fact, like I've started I was like judging people who were buying the OLED as an upgrade, and then I started looking at the OLED, and I was like, I like it. I kind of want one.
Pretty.
It was like, ooh, pretty shiny, Nate one. So Yeah, but as far as like a good thing that I would sort of throw out for Nintendo, I think they've really like hit some like really bangers as far as like titles and exclusives. Metroid Dread did really really well. A
Mm,
lot of like the people like there have been a few detractors, but for the most part, like all you're hearing is good things about this game.
mhm,
Like I said earlier, I'm playing it, I'm enjoying it, and like I'm into it. I'm there for that. I would also SMT5. We've sort of talked about that. Like critical success. Like so, like these games are doing very very well. I would say I think this year they sort of hit some of their stride, and it's not to say that they haven't, but it's like I think we're starting to see some of the Switch library sort of really round out, and they're you know they're dropping bangers, and so and
mhm.
I would sort of say like I think just to pull like sort of dip into our comments here. Jono, you know, said pretty much exactly what I did. Switch and SMT5 are just fantastic titles, and I think it's like if that's the kind of the caliber of stuff that we have to look for, like triangle strategy or whatever is coming down the line. Like there's going to be some cool stuff, and so I'm in for that. Let's move on to what is something bad that Nintendo like what's Nintendo's bad. I mean, I'll pick this one up. I really
Yeah.
think like the NSO stuff was just like the Nintendo Switch Online stuff, like, and I still maintain that that is a bad move. Um, like it's yes, and I mean full disclosure, like I have since Wes and I have sort of behind the scenes like made some arrangements, and he is in the process of adding me to his family plan. So there is that, but I just think overall it's just it's confusing. It's not, and it just and even what I'm hearing about like the emulation of some of the 64 games and stuff, people are like, this is not good, especially in light of the fact that like this is like it includes Super Mario 64, which they've already re-released in a collection that they intentionally removed from delisted from their store. And like I mean you can still get the carts out there in the wild, but
Mhm.
I'm like dude, this is just like it's between like stuff like that and just like it just seems like this is very obvious, like seems to be a very obvious sort of like cash grab where like Nintendo's almost feels like, well, we're gonna milk you because we can. And I'm not and I just like I said, I think it's confusing. I think it's not I'm not a fan. I like it doesn't do anything for me. And sort of we'll just move in reverse order. Micah, what would you say?
I was going to piggyback on that. That was going to be mine.
Yeah.
What was the Switch Online? I think
Mhm.
it's really just. I know, of course, everyone can kind of get in with their family plan if they want to. I'm doing something similar, not with this upgraded version, I don't think, but yeah, it's just too much for what they're offering. I think they're overvaluing what
Yeah.
the offerings are here.
Mhm.
It's not like you get to download and own the games. You can play them in perpetuity as you have the service, subscribe to it. So, but after that, they're gone. So, um, personally, not a whole lot that I would, that would want me to sign up for it. But
Mhm.
there are those out there that would love to get a hand on some of those Genesis games and what have you, in 64 games and stuff. So I'm sure there's someone out there for it, but it seems to be misreading the room a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's some missed opportunities. Slightly too expensive. Things like that. It's pretty typical Nintendo being Nintendo. It's not
Yeah.
anything that we've not grown accustomed to, but you just hope they would do better. And especially, I think N64 games, and that is part of the package, right?
Yeah.
N64 games.
N64 and
Yep.
Sega
Okay,
Genesis
just making sure
games.
I'm,
Yep.
I'm stating that right. So that's been something people have been asking for a long, long time,
Hmm.
and this is how they're going to give it out. It's just like that seems a little disappointing.
I mean, I'll be honest, just sort of like maybe just sort of heap scorn on. I really think the moves like this removal of the sort of virtual console stuff like is just was a bad idea. And the way that they're doing has always sort of the way that they're doing this has always irked me. Um, I just felt like, there's a lot of things that I don't like about the Nintendo online experience. And I just feel like it's like one of these things where they are missing the forest for the trees kind of deal, where it's like, again, misreading the tea leaves is probably much more like, it's like, what I want is to have a secure connection, and like all this other stuff is like, but like, I want just the core online service to be good. I want to have a built-in voice chat. I want to be able to sort of like easily like, pair up and party up with friends. I want like basically what Microsoft and Sony have been doing for years at this point. And then if you throw in this other stuff, great. That's a bonus, but it's almost sort of like, it's like they looked at like the PlayStation Plus model and sort of Microsoft Gold or Game Pass or whatever, and they're like, what is the actual complete opposite approach to this? And it's like, but Josh, what do you think here, man? Like, what's probably, in your opinion, what's like the biggest misstep or the poorest decision Nintendo has made? I mean,
well, no, I mean, yeah, it's wrapped up in the whole online thing. So I'm trying to, because both of you guys had kind of already mentioned it. I'm trying to think of something else, and so I'm going to muddy the waters here, or maybe just go a little. Well, actually, I think I'll move that to weird. So here's something. Maybe this doesn't count because it's not like a 2021 only thing, but it's something that they have been doing. That I think is just a bad decision in general. I understand why it's made, but selling physical cases with download codes in them, I don't like that at all. I don't understand. Well, I say I don't understand that. I understand some games are too big to put out. You don't want the extra expense of a bigger cart or something like that. But to me, as someone who is more of a physical collector, that just rubs me the wrong way. Of like, there is no point to own this thing at all if it's a download code.
I was literally having this conversation with my buddy Ben today.
Okay.
We were talking about Halo. Apparently, you get the Halo Infinite disc, and there's nothing on it. You can't plug it into your offline Xbox and get going. You got to download a huge patch. You got to download the campaign or whatever else. And I guess Halo's not the first game to do that. I think Call of Duty might do similar things, or but that really does bring into question, what are you buying?
Right.
Like,
right.
in 20 years, when Xbox Line is off live or offline, or you're just offline, period, you just want to stick in your disc or your cart and play. Is there any value to that physical game you just bought? Like, in some cases, the answer is no, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also no resale market for that. You can't, which I understand. Okay, from a publisher standpoint, that's a good thing. But from someone who like wants to have at least that fallback there, like that just feels very underhanded. And it does say so on the box when that's the case, but it's not like super prominent if you don't know what you're buying.
Right.
So not a fan. I think that's a bad.
That definitely sort of falls into that. Just sort of, again, looking at sort of some of the comments and sort of Wes actually kind of and this might be bordering into the what the heck, but he did he talked about their Mario plans, how, again, we sort of mentioned it, like they removed the collection from the 3D Mario collection from the store. Again, you can still find the carts out in the wild. And then he talks about how the fact, like, they had that Mario 35 game. He's like, and that game was great. And then they just like, they pulled it and it's gone. And it's like one of those things that it's just kind of like weird. Why would you do this? But, and then, John, also sort of mentioned it, just like the Nintendo Switch Online stuff is just such a, like, it's just like, read the room, Nintendo, read the room.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if if we're doing the whole ping pong here,
I was going to say, like, why don't you said you had something for the weird, so why don't you just swing?
So it's closely related to the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass. It is the controllers. Okay, so they released when they first did Nintendo Switch Online, they released a pack of NES controllers. I think it was $60 NES Joy Cons that are like NES controller. Which, yeah, that's still expensive. Don't get me wrong, $60 for two of these things. But my understanding for Genesis and Nintendo 64, I think it's $50 each for a single controller. I get that it's wireless, but still, like, you can buy some pretty reputable brands, 8-bit dough controller, something like that for the 30-40 range. So that feels very strange to me to go back, because obviously, like, a Nintendo 64 controller is not going to have all the buttons that you need to play regular game, like every single Nintendo Switch game. It just doesn't have those same. I understand that they have added buttons as well, but it's still not the full button configuration that a Switch has.
I mean, if somebody
So
really hates themselves and they're just like, no, I
right? Do you
love
want to play
64
Switch games with
controller?
the Nintendo 64? Yeah. No,
Okay.
sorry, I don't have three hands. So that is just very strange to me, and that's why I was like teetering on: is it a bad? Is it a weird? It's just very like I get. Well, it's weird to me that you'd release Nintendo 64 controllers in general, and that people would buy them, but $50 Nintendo 64 controllers. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah. My ugly is, I don't know. This is a bit of a reach, I'll admit. But it seems like, we were talking about, I was saying, they don't need a Switch 2 or anything like that. They don't. But what they're going to do is do that thing they did with the DS where it's like, all right, now we got the Switch XL. Here you go. Here's the OLED Switch XL. Okay, here's the OLED Switch XL Lite. Oh, here's the OLED Switch XL Lite 2. And then we're going to get the Switch 2 finally.
You're going to get the Super Switch OLED edition. Yeah.
Right. So I hope we don't go down that road of iterating on the Switch a billion times before we actually get a proper follow-up. But it looks like they might be doing that. So that's my ugly. Again, bit of a reach, but that's what I got.
Well, and mine is sort of like the kind of like what are you doing here kind of thing is the OLED thing. And again, like I am team like I want one. But I also play primarily in handheld mode, so I am sort of like the target market there. But I do kind of look at it and I'm like, nobody was really asking for this. And I know that it's done well, and the people like Wes he's like, no, this thing is actually super worth it. But it just does feel like such a weird, like, are they going to sort of, and I guess sort of the question that I'm asking is like, are they going to do this sort of like every couple of years they add, like, there's a sort of a not quite of like a midlife refresh. It's more of like just a little tweak here and are you going to do the thing where it's like, well, you can't really play this on your base model Switch or your Switch Lite. You can play it on the OLED, or you can play it on the whatever the next iteration is. And that spooks me. I like, and again, I think the precedent is the 3DS. Like, how many iterations of the 3DS and 2DS do we have? But that being said, that's sort of my like, Nintendo, what are you doing? Like, this is weird. As far as the order goes, I would like to save the best for last. So why don't we jump into Microsoft next? And what you did there. And I'll kick us off on this one. I'm going to say, like, and it's sort of like Microsoft, I think, just like dollar for dollar, and as much as I don't like it, Game Pass is just a heck of a value, and they have as just even just as far as like Game Pass goes and just messaging, they have been killing it this last year. Like every chance they can to just like shine optically, they are just like they haven't made a misstep yet. And I'm just like, I was talking to my buddy Parker and my brother a little bit, like and this is sort of getting ahead, but my biggest frustration is that like Sony is silent in the face of this stuff sometimes. And it's just like, but Microsoft just like, they're doing a lot of things that people like. They're just like I said, every time it's just like, every time I hear Microsoft's name, you never hear like, oh, Microsoft, you did this dumb thing. Like, I think the dumbest thing we'll get into that, but but yeah, I just think like they're winning the optics battle. And it's just like, and they just haven't made any missteps. I mean, like between like the way that they've sort of like clowned on Sony with getting day one MLB The Show, like day one on Game Pass, like it's like, dude, they have just like, that has been like that's their big gun, and they have just used it to mercilessly like just destroy Sony this last year. And you know that, and but it's like they've sort of hit every time. So, Micah, what do you
Mhm.
think?
Yeah, you're kind of taking the words out of my mouth a lot. We have a lot of the same ideas. The optics and stuff is certainly there. I think, the thrust for them, for Phil, for the executive office now at Microsoft, is Game Pass and getting those subscriber numbers up. And I want to say they missed their projection or whatever their target goal was or whatever, but they still bumped up like something like 38% a year over year or something like that, which is just great growth.
Whoa.
For a
Mm-hmm.
service like that. They're really, like you said, Nate, they're in the zeitgeist. They're in they're really kind of being fueled by the coals of the moment and being kind of like, yeah, we do kind of have a monopoly on this whole Netflix of gaming thing right now, and still no one has really come back to challenge us on this yet. And they're starting to hit their stride, and yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. Is just, yeah, they've got their niche, they're sticking with it, they're really pouring into it, and it's paying off. It's got mind share
Mm-hmm.
of the casual, or not the casual gamer, of the everyday gamer,
Yeah.
people that don't care if they play on PC, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, like, okay, yeah, it's a Game Pass over here, $10 a month, okay, yeah, Halo, Forza, Psychonauts,
Mm-hmm.
boom, let's go, so yeah, they're hitting on those sort of things for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember a few years ago, Adam said when he was still recording TRG, he said, "When Microsoft gives me a reason to buy an Xbox, I will." Like,
Right.
or maybe he was like, maybe it was sort of like he was like, "Give me a reason to play your games," kind of thing. But it was like,
Mhm.
yeah, and I was like, well, I think that they're finally like they're giving me reasons to sort of pay attention to the platform again. But
Right.
Josh,
Mhm.
what do you think?
Pretty similar, but taking a little bit of a different stance here is that I do think it's like Game Pass, especially is kind of the big shining light of like, wow, this is what Microsoft is doing right now, and it's definitely hooking people. I would say also, as someone who does not own an Xbox, I've got a 360, a super old 360 that doesn't even have an HDMI output, that I've literally never played. Um, Outside of that, like I don't own an Xbox. I do own a PC. Fact that they have Game Pass for PC, even though it's not fully featured, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the games that you can play on the Xbox are no longer just exclusive to Xbox, but you can also play them on PC. And there is a Game Pass service for PC as well. Like that has ever since the Xbox was released, it was like, Microsoft gaming kind of a thing. Like there was that whole muddied waters that just eventually became a joke. Um, but now, I mean, they're like actually supporting. They're wanting to they're wanting to incorporate the Microsoft name into Xbox as well. So like even Windows 10 has some preloaded Xbox stuff on it as well. So I would say just their whole, I guess just PC integration is what I'm saying, but kind of channeling that through Game Pass as well. The fact that you can have Game Pass on your PC, I think is pretty dang cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, I really think like and this is all speculation, and I don't know that they've come out and actually confirmed this, but like the sort of like the USB drive, sort of throw it into your TV, it pairs with an Xbox controller. Like I really think like they're going for that model with Game Pass.
mhm,
Like they want to do something like that and really sort of lean into the streaming service kind of thing. Um,
mhm, yep,
but that's
yep,
just like the way that they really are sort of pushing it across, and even the way that they've incorporated it in so like if you have a 360, you have access, like, or an Xbox, like you have access to some of this stuff. So you don't need to be super current with a gen. You don't need to have the latest greatest hardware. It's been pretty cool stuff. So what about their bad stat, buddy? Or wait, you
Well,
got something else?
No, it's actually just piggybacking off of that you just said, is that you don't need the latest and greatest. I think it's a bad thing, personally, that there are no exclusives for the series. Well, that'll come later.
The series. Yeah.
But that's my ugly, just throwing it out there. But I think the fact that like this is a year in to their new systems and there are no exclusives to those systems in particular, that
was it Forza Horizon and
okay.
Halo, but those are like recent, like within the last month. So
right. Okay, so you can't play those on the previous generation.
No, you can play those on previous gen stuff.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Is like there's
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I get that there are still, they're more powerful machines, but it's still just weird to me. And I mean, they're selling too. So I don't know. What are my 2 cents worth? I'm just an armchair critic. Sure. But that does not sell me on their systems in the least, if I can play them in other places, which I know goes against the whole thing that I just said with PC, but still.
Yeah, man, I feel like I'm sort of just reiterating what the previous person said before me, but that's kind of the tree I was going to bark up too.
Great minds think alike, Micah. Great minds think alike, buddy.
Yeah. So, Nate, I remember having a conversation with you on the phone earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking shop for like 3 hours about we were venting about Sony's like
it was mostly we're just like we're kind of like, why doesn't Sony do something?
Right. But basically in that talk we were talking about how I was like, Xbox hasn't really done anything yet this generation. And when here we are a year away from the launch of the Series X and Series S, and what games did they come out with? They had Psychonauts, which is also on PlayStation, and then they had Forza and Halo, which they always have.
Yeah.
Every other year or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? That's the joke. Fable, Forza, and Halo. Fable, Forza, and Halo,
Yeah.
So it's like you still, a year after your console's release, you haven't released anything of substance, truly. Now, I'm not knocking Forza, I'm not knocking Halo.
Is like one of the only games that's...
I'm literally playing Forza Horizon 5 right now, and I'm loving it. It's fantastic. Not knocking the game. I'm saying it's just the same old thing. Like you still need to come out with those bangers, those Breath of the Wilds, those God of War, these things that are only on the Xbox, that is new, and and it's not Halo and Forza. Sorry, so
but we're getting a new Fable.
Yeah, but it's like there's a bunch of stuff coming out. There's the new Hellblade, there's Redfall, there's Starfield, there's all these games that are out in the future, but still it hasn't come to fruition yet. They've got all these studios, all these things that they're supposed to be doing stuff with, and it's like, okay, well, where's the product? You still haven't shown it. There's still technically no reason, unless you just want the best, all the bells and whistles and the greatest specs. There's no reason to go out and get a Series X. I can play Halo Infinite on my Xbox One X or whatever. That's what I've got. That's what I'm going to be doing that. I'm subscribed to Game Pass. They got me money. They got my money there. But I'm just like, okay, you got all these studios. You're bragging about all this stuff, but it's like, okay, where's the product? And are you going to be able to shepherd all those studios in the way that the Nintendos and the Sonys do with all their studios and put out A after A after A, like grading game, like a 90 game on Metacritic, 90. They keep
and that's
these first party Nintendo and Sony games they're not great, they're fantastic. You know what I'm saying? So like they got to hit that same caliber, I think, for most of their games.
I think sort of the one, it's like this coming year will sort of be a bit of a proving ground. And if they can't really muster it, like their whole goal is to have one AAA release every quarter. If they can actually do that and like maintain that rhythm and that sort of like that velocity, Sony and Nintendo, I think, are both going to maybe feel some pain because that will definitely eat into everybody, sort of like the market share and the mind share. But I think that's the thing is like, I'm like, you guys have to prove that you can actually do this. So, but yeah, I sort of on a different bend, my sort of bad is like, dude, the whole games with gold, Game Pass, like just that whole mess, and sort of like, I don't see them, like, there's a part of me that just like, and I know that they did that. There was that whole like games with gold pricing change and all that other stuff that they did. My thing is just like, you guys just need to pull off the Band-Aid. Like, just get rid of the Microsoft game service or whatever they want to, but basically the Microsoft Gold. Like, just get rid of it. Just like rip off the Band-Aid, like convert that time to Game Pass time and just make that your default service. Like, just this multi-tiered crap is frankly a little confusing. And at this point in time, games with gold is just like, it's something that's holding them back. Just, and this is like, it's like the stuff that they offer on that is almost never competitive with the exception of this last month from Sony. But the PS Plus titles are almost always consistently better. Almost always. I'm not saying every time, but it's just like, there's a reason that they're not, like, you don't really hear that much about it, because it doesn't do anything. And so my thing is just tear off the Band-Aid, get rid of that. Like, that's the one thing, is like, they don't know how to handle that. And I think like the biggest mistake is just that they're letting this thing sort of sit there and pollute the ecosystem. And they just need to get rid of it. And again, it's not major. It's a fairly minor misstep. Like, of all the like dumb things you could do, it's like, well, it's not killing them. But I'm just like, dude, that's the one like, get rid of that thing. Just like figure out like how you're going to sort of roll everything up and bundle it up and just get rid of it.
You can tell that they don't care about games with gold.
Yeah.
So games with gold, excuse me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just seems like an afterthought for them compared to Game Pass. So yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you there.
What I'll say is like my weird, like my ugly kind of thing is just like the way that like they talk around what Game Pass is actually like costing. There was that comment recently that it's like, it's sustainable. And all the Microsoft fanboys are like, no, that means it's viable. And I'm like, sustainable does not mean profitable. It means that the losses that they are incurring, and they are incurring losses, are maintainable and they're negligible. Like, and for a company that nets as much as they do, that might be a really big number. And I know it's like, and I'm just like the thing is like, they're not going to tell you how much money they're making or losing on this thing. Well, I think when they start making money, they'll let us know. But I think the reality is they are losing money on Game Pass, but they see it as, and to their credit, they're just like, they're sort of, it's more of I think a long game. And I know it's not their only avenue of income and everything else, but I really like, I would almost like, I'm just like, why don't you guys just like say it? Like, yeah, we're losing money on this, but we feel that this is a better investment of the future in gaming, whatever you want to say. But no, they play these dumb little word games where it's like, I'm like, this is just weird. Like, just like, I know that you're not making money off this. And like, and I'm not trying to be like, but it's like, here's the thing. Even if they're not making enough to talk about it, and that's with them owning the server farms and everything else, like they own all that Microsoft Azure cloud gaming stuff. Like, they don't have to, it's not like with Sony or anybody else that contracts with them where they have to, like, those companies have to pay to use those services. Microsoft doesn't bill themselves for that. Like, they're not losing money on that crap. As I'm saying, like, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, there's a lot of advantages in there on their behalf. And I'm just like, to me, it's just befuddling. Like, why can't you just sort of be honest? Like, just shoot straight. Like, but that's sort of the ugly for me when it comes to, or the what are you doing when it comes to Microsoft? That's just me. Micah?
Mm-hmm. I had an ugly, and sort of as you were talking, I sort of got thinking about something else, and I sort of lost it. One thing to point out that I'm trying to think what that one was. It might come back to me in just a second, but one thing I wanted to point out, Phil Spencer keeps saying like, "Oh yeah, but like Microsoft is all in on gaming, all in on gaming." And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, that would be the case when Satya Nadella, the CEO, is now getting bonuses based on Game Pass's performance, which is a fact. It's like, yeah, of course he's all in on gaming. He's going to get personally, compensated for specific goals being reached. Bonuses kick in, not like you're doing good because the company's doing good. It's like, no, when you meet this number in Game Pass, a bonus kicks in for you, CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of stuff is like, yeah, Microsoft is always like, well, no crap, they are. So, and yeah, like Phil Spencer has a fiduciary duty, as Colin Moriarty has said, much on sacred symbols, Nate, to tell the truth. And if he could use the P word, he would use the P word, and he can't. He can't say it's profitable because it's not.
That's why we get the word sustainable.
Right. They very much want to use that word. I promise they would be shouting it as soon as it becomes so.
Just like they would be like if their numbers were dominant. Like I know that they've said we're having a better year than we've ever had before. If their numbers were comparable to Sony's, they'd be telling us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be whatever. Like I'm just saying, like there's a reason they don't talk about these things. They're not shouting them from the rooftops.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, didn't mean to interrupt you, Micah. But
yeah, I was trying to think what my weird was. I had something good and it just escaped me. So Josh, let's move on to you. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Okay. So I've got a couple concepts, but I think tying it into what you've already mentioned, I think it is just these word games that Microsoft likes to play. So you talked about like the long game of Game Pass. That's kind of a question to me. I don't really understand that. But some of these word games, the naming convention of their freaking consoles, I think is terrible. Absolutely horrible. The series of S or X or Xbox One X, or just that is horrible. Here's another one that I have only heard from Microsoft. I've not heard it from Sony. You may correct me. Is a console exclusive game, or something along the lines of what are some of the other? Didn't they use another term? A time. Well, they're timed exclusives, but they throw out different ways to say exclusive, even if it's not really
launch exclusive things.
Yes,
like
that. I think the one that made me like some of the word games that I thought were funny when they talked about like with the Bethesda acquisition. And they're like, well, if it has a history, and it's like, they're talking, it's like, that was part of the like it was probably a good 6 months and nobody had any idea. I mean, some of us were just like, no, it means like if the game's on there, they're going to support it and they're going to do whatever. But if it's not, and I mean, and a great example of that is like what they did with Psychonauts. Like there's a PlayStation version, but it's not a native PS5 version. There's a native Series X version, which takes advantage of all the bells and whistles and which I'm not grumpy about at all. But there's no native PS5 version. It's instead you're sort of shackled with the PS4 version, which is still probably an excellent game. But it's sort of like and when people are like losing their minds when they're like Starfield is going to be an Xbox exclusive, I'm like, duh. like it's like, no, they're not going to bring this over. Like, and they'd be stupid to. It's like, why would you cede any advantage? And again, that stuff doesn't bother me near as much as like some of the other shenanigans. Like I said, Psychonauts, I'm a little chapped about, but So, but yeah, it's just like the weird word games and naming conventions. It's just like, well, and like you're talking about the naming conventions. So I heard about a theoretical like midlife refresh where it's basically a Series X, but in a slimmed down version. And it's instead of having the drive, it's all digital. It's like, what are you going to call it? The Series DX, the Series SX, the Series, MX, the series like series. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, I mean, the naming convention with Microsoft has not been good from the get go. I mean, you
Right.
had the original Xbox, which was like fine.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had
Yeah.
360, and everybody's like, "What?" Then you have,
It's weird, but it works. Okay,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
agree.
terrible.
but
It
then you
it works.
have one and Xbox One
Right.
X, and then you have the
Right.
Xbox Series, and
That's
it's
where
like
they go off the rails.
Yeah.
Just like
it's like
yeah.
the whole numbering convention that
Yeah.
number. No,
Yeah. Even for your console, Micah, like an Xbox One X, like 3 X's in the title of
Yeah.
it just what?
Yeah,
It
it's nuts. Ever since Xbox One, it's been going downhill, and they've
Mhm.
somehow never
I
like they
didn't think
somehow
it could get
keep
worse.
managing to outdoing
Mhm.
themselves with it. But yeah, the next console that'll be. I really thought they were going to correct the ship with the series
Mhm.
console, and they
Right.
somehow didn't.
Yeah. They're like, well, immediately when they announced the Xbox One, people were calling it the X-Bone, So you'd
Right.
think you'd want to think through this a little bit more for your next series, but
it's almost
Yeah.
like they were saying, like, how I'm fond of saying this, but it's almost like internally they had a memo that said, "Let's make it weird." It's just like, guys, come on, come on.
Yeah.
But Micah, did your ugly pop up?
no.
No, it might come up later on, and I might mention it, but yeah, no, I lost it.
Well, we'll have
Does
Josh
anyone
fix it in post.
remember HoloLens or Kinect?
Oh
No,
yeah.
geez. I'm just
Anyways.
looking through here. Yeah, as far as any Microsoft commentary, KJVO said that Microsoft killed it with the whole Game Pass stuff. He also mentioned, you know, but yeah, there wasn't a ton as far as Microsoft, good, bad, or ugly, kind of goes.
Mhm.
So let's move on to Sony and Micah. We're going to change the order. I want you to sort of lead us off. I'll go in the middle, and Josh, you can wrap us up with sort
Okay.
of like what is like one thing that Sony just nailed this year.
Um, I don't know if I can say it's this year, but it's just the PS5 and the launch and the software that they have.
Hmm.
I think it's easy in the first year to look at. It's like, oh man, no, it's not worth buying yet, or like, oh, the launch games aren't really there, or the libraries. Go back and compare the library to the PlayStation 4. I
Hmm.
dare you. Like it's way better. And it's not even close, really. Go back compare it to the PlayStation 3. Not even like PlayStation 4 is better than that one, so it's not even close. So we have a
The
great
PS2's
library.
initial library was trash for like the first
Had
3 months.
SSX, and that
Hmm.
was it.
And
Anyway,
Fantavision.
yeah, that's right. You want to do some fireworks. So
Did have a DVD player though.
this is very true. So they made a great piece of hardware, and
Hmm.
good grief, the DualSense is it
Hmm.
for me. That thing is the evolutionary jump. It's that generational jump. That's the thing that is going to kind of wow you or whatever. Coming into when you open the box, you boot up Astro's Playroom or Astro, whatever it's
Hmm.
called, and you're like, "Daggum, that's
when
pretty
you're
cool."
walking, like, I love walking through the different surfaces and the way that the haptics, like, and again, this sounds like I'm not trying to blow smoke up anyone's rear end here. The way the haptics sort of like feel on that are fantastic. Like,
Hmm.
there is a very distinct difference between, like, you know, ice, glass, metal, grass. Like, there's like sort of all these different, like, and the haptics in the game responds to each one of those things. It is really wild. And yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I made a comment one time that I'd rather have the DualSense controller than Game Pass if I had to choose one or the
Mm.
other. Like
Hmm.
that thing enhances games. Like when I go back and play PS4 games that don't have the support or other consoles, it's just uh, like it's just kind of missing something.
Hmm.
I'm sort of also feeling that with load times, with the PS5 and going back and playing some Forza on the Xbox One X. And good grief, I know it's like the biggest first world problem ever, but I'm like, this feels like I'm wasting my time. Like I'm trying to
Hmm.
play a game and I'm just sitting here watching it load. Um, So yeah, they just created a great piece of hardware that has a standout lineup. I mean, we're going to talk about Returnal probably a little bit later, but Spider-Man, Demon Souls, Returnal, Kana, Deathloop, Ratchet and Clank. Like, there's a lot of good software already in year
Mhm.
one for this machine. Something for everyone probably. And yeah, so just that's my good, I guess, is that they successfully launched a killer system. Yeah, they got some supply issues. Maybe we'll get into that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, it's sort of almost sort of like swinging off that into like I really think one of the things that over the last year I've been pretty impressed with Sony in and is the studio acquisitions that they've made in the last couple of years. Housemark, Bluepoint, like Housemark was a little bit of a surprise to me. But after playing Returnal, I'm like, oh no, I can absolutely see. Like, yeah, if you did not snap these guys up, you were robbing yourself, depriving yourself.
Yeah,
Blue Point is like it was kind of like one of those things. Like when it finally happened, I was like, yes, sort of like yes, 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 and it was like because they've been such good partners for so long at this point in time that I wanted to see Blue Point come home. I am a little sort of like bummed that Blue Point isn't going to just be a port remake studio, but I'm also excited for them because they're getting to make a project that it seems like they're pretty passionate about. They're
yeah.
going to bring a lot of technical know-how. It's going to be really cool. I just think, like I said, that those two studios in particular, the studio that did the Persistence, I haven't played that yet, but I've heard really good
Mhm.
things about that. Like,
Right.
is that Fire Sprite?
Correct.
Like they've it seems like they've made some really tactical acquisitions, whereas there was that big grab from Microsoft again, sort of the Bethesda acquisition, and I just felt like scary and kind of weird and like whoa, like Evil Empire. And I'm not saying that Sony's like some benevolent but it
Right.
feels like their decisions are a little more intentional, tactical, and again, like it's sort of like and they make a lot more sense to me. And it's but that's sort of my like if I had to sort of like give Sony one good on you, and I think they've done a lot right. Like I think the PS5 is an outstanding piece of hardware. Um, and I think too, even sort of like, echoing some of what you said, Micah, is like, dude, like honestly, we were talking with Eric Bryant a little bit about Control, and Control on the PS5 is like best case scenario for like why why the generation upgrade is necessary. Like that
Yeah.
game, yeah. But Josh, I'm interested to hear. Well, what do you think? Like, what's the one sort of thing that gets a good on you for Sony from Josh Brocklow?
Well, it's kind of funny actually because it is along similar lines, but I do take a different perspective, and I would push back on some of the stuff that's already been said. I personally don't think the PS5 warrants a purchase at $400 and $500. With, I mean, yes, Micah, you did list off a number of exclusives, but I mean, it's less than a dozen about a year in of true exclusives, like games that you cannot play in PS on PS4.
Mm-hmm.
And you're counting like, yes, Demon Souls looks great, but it is also a remake. So you can play the original still, and I'm sure it's way better than the original, don't get me wrong. And you guys have also brought up, the controller, things like that. Astro's Playroom, I'm sure, is fantastic. I've heard nothing but good things. So I'm not trying to be a downer, but to me, like, it does not warrant a
You're
$400
harshing my buzz, Josh.
in the mid. Well, but this is okay. So I'm turning it around. Okay, so I'm putting all that garbage down at the bottom first to say that these things, PS5s cannot stay in stock anywhere.
Mm.
And yes, it's because of, like supply issues. Yes, but even still, they are selling like gangbusters. Like, it is insane how many sales that they're actually making off of something that I would say does not warrant the price. Because also, there's a console, and then if you buy the console and a game, that's like $500 minimum, after taxes. Um, so the fact that they can sell that, to me, is mind share, is just the name. Like, right now, I think they are selling PS5s on a promise of Spider-Man 2 and God of War and again, I don't mean to say that there aren't good games. Like Returnal sounds fantastic also. I'm not saying that, but they are promising you there are more of these experiences, which to me they have built up over the previous generation in particular. Certainly Sony has had a great track record, so I'm not dogging on them at all. I'm just saying, like, there were some fantastic games on PS4, and the sequels to that, if you want to play the sequels to that, like, you should get the newer system because that's what it's made for. And I get some of them are also coming to PS4 also. I get that. But unlike Xbox, which like they don't care what you play it on, but the latest and greatest is going to play better, kind of a thing. Like, no, Sony is actually releasing some exclusive games. So to me, what stands out in with what Sony is doing is the fact that they have built their empire, as it were, to where they can release a new system with some upgrades to it and convince like a majority of people, and maybe this is about the gaming landscape and YouTube and Twitch and all this stuff, sure, but the fact that they're like, my understanding is they're leading over Microsoft right now with new console sales. Could be wrong about that.
The PS5 is actually, I think the numbers have dipped at this point in time, but it was on track to basically outsell the PS4. And I think at this point in time in the console life cycle, it has outsold PS4 units.
Yeah. Yeah. See, like that's crazy to me. The fact that that's happening. I think that says something about Sony. As much as I'm baffled because I don't see the value proposition there, personally, I think that says something about Sony. The fact that they have these developers, they've announced these games, they have shown through the last console cycle, yes, we will give you really good experiences. Even towards the end of PS4's life cycle, like Ghost of Tsushima, right? Like up until the end, they were releasing really good games. And I mean, they're still releasing, yes.
Yeah.
Cross, not cross-platform, but, cross-generational games. So sorry if that came off negative. I mean that to be a positive in that, like, they're almost like riding a wave, but going on to something even bigger. Like, it does not look like they are slowing down. They're still going in that same direction.
I think it is fair to say that in the initial sort of release, they very much were riding the inertia of the PS4 and sort of.
So also as a fanboy, okay, you can call me that if you want to. As a Nintendo fanboy, Switch released with Breath of the Wild. Okay, there was a reason from day one to get a Switch. You could buy Breath of the Wild on Wii U. I understand. That's what I did. What's that?
You get Demon Souls, bro.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think Demon Souls compares to Breath of the Wild, but even despite having like a day one, like banger like that, they are killing it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. No. Well, since you've just sort of been already so negative, why don't you tell me what your bad is? If that's your good.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Tell us how you really feel.
Oh man. So this is actually the hard one for me, is like, I don't know that they're doing anything. Oh no, actually, you know what? And this might fall into the weird also, because it has yet to pan out right now. But they just announced the new like tiered system that they're going to be moving to for PS Plus. And this is the opposite of what you were talking about with games with gold. To me, like, reading the initial announcements, and I don't even know if it was an official announcement. I could be wrong about that.
But I don't think it's an official, but it's, yeah.
Okay. So this is all speculation. Sorry, this is end of 2021 stuff, and it could, you could wash it away.
No, it's highly to be believed. It was from Jason Schreier's reporting over at Bloomberg. He had a very reliable. It's to be believed that there's going to be a 3-tiered system for PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, like he wouldn't just put that out if it wasn't credible. And it's I don't know if it's been sort of echoed, but like Silicon Era released an article that talked about that as well. And I don't know if that was just sort
Yeah.
of a mirror article off of Schreier's work or what, but
We can speak as if it's going to be true because I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, the fact that it's moving to 3 different tiers that and hey, you can play old games, like, that's cool. I like that, but the fact that there are different tiers for those games, along with still having PlayStation Now is my understanding. So, I
Well,
feel
no,
like it's
PlayStation Now
going
is going away. PS Plus,
okay,
and
it's
so is
being
PS
absorbed into that?
Plus.
Okay,
Like basically, PS Plus will be rolled into that system, from what I
gotcha.
understand.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah, which is the first tier, and then the second
yeah,
tiers that you add on are the additional games. Um, yeah, that it remains to be seen how, how smooth that goes, but to me that feels like a bad move.
yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
personally, that's actually my weird, and we can talk about it a little
Cool,
bit more
cool. Makes
because
sense.
for some of the very same reasons you mentioned. But I think my bad is like I just have been so one. Yeah, some of it is like there haven't been a ton of titles, but it also like I think my biggest sort of frustration with Sony, I think the one is that they have just not been very forthright. Like, and in some ways, like that
Mhm,
sort of playing it real close to the chest and only swinging when they actually have the like they're when they're ready has been working for them. But I know as a fan, it has been just infuriating at times when I'm just like, I just want you to say something. I just want you like and frankly, I'm a little concerned, and I guess like is that like like part of it is like they've just been so it just seems like they've been so slow to sort of respond to everything and to move, and even like sort of with the new PS Online stuff. Like I'm just like, man, you guys are like you're not quite on this is, and I get it. It's like they're a big company, like change is going to happen slowly, but it's like they're almost moving. It's like they're almost reactionary at times, and I just like I'm like it's sort of we mentioned it. Like I really like when Microsoft starts dropping a game every quarter. I'm like Sony, you need to be ready for this because they're coming, and when they do, like, and I don't, and I just kind of like, I don't know if Sony is ready. But, and
mm,
again, but it's, I think a lot of it is just like, and some of it's a good thing. It's, if they're sort of pulling their punches and they're not like saying anything until they want to, like, or until they're ready to just sort of come swinging out of the gate with that knockout hit, that's one thing. But I just like, I've been just frustrated and irritated and annoyed by their silence and their just complete sort of like just like optically, and again I'm sort of using this term, like the whole like shutting down the PS3 store and the Vita stuff and just being like
mhm,
and like all the like the just like it's kind of like one of those situations where it's like I think if you had primed people a little bit more, if you'd given a
yeah,
little bit more like leeway, if you'd sort of been a little more like people might, but it was like this, just like, now this is what we're doing and you can go get stuffed. And I'm like, and it's like, you're going to be like silent on all these other things that are really important and that your fan base is kind of like your consumers and customers are really like wanting you to speak on. And instead you're going to be like, and we're getting rid of the PS3 store. And it's like, who asked for that? Like who, like and it's like, oh, we're not gonna, you're not gonna be able to buy stuff on PSP and Vita's going away too. And it's like, really? Like that seemed like a good move to you. Hmm. But I mean, like I said, I just feel like that sort of like that stuff right there. It's like that again. It's sort of like it's almost like when it came like to the optics. It's like where Microsoft
mhm,
was just like hitting it all the time. It was like it seemed for a while there. Every time Sony had something to say, it was like, that's not great.
mhm,
I
yeah.
mean, but I'm just saying like that, that's sort of been my experience sort of on the bad side of things. How about you, Micah? What do you think?
Y- Yeah, well, one thing that can speak to that, I think, is, and my bad will be this, is the all the internal movement within the organization,
Hmm.
from the
Mm.
top, kind of through the middle management and stuff. I say middle management like I know their organization, but um, just some names that you would expect that have been there through the late PS3 through the good years in PS4 and kind of helped them get to where they are. Let me start from the beginning. Sean Layden, president CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment America, just left the company like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, whatever it was. It's like there was people that have his tenure and have his position. If you're leaving on good terms, there's usually like, hey, thanks Sean for the 7 years of service. Blah, blah. I hope you're getting your next adventure. There was nothing like that. He's not the CEO, or he's not the president of that position anymore. That's not a good look. Something happened there. So here comes Jim Ryan. That's fine. Whatever. Jim Ryan's a good guy. He's run the European territory well. PlayStation dominates in Europe. And Shuhei Yoshida, everyone knows him, everyone loves him. Head of Worldwide Studios gets put in the indie corner, almost like a demotion. And guys like Adam Boyes, Gio Corsi, they're gone. Guys that have helped formulate this third-party team, this third-party relations team that guys like Nick Sutner, if you know who he is, was part of and is no longer part of. They've had some attrition at Sony in some key positions, and I think that has caused some of the weird messaging that we're getting, or lack thereof, or just kind of the pivots in general. We're seeing some weird decisions come out of Sony. Some like rumors that The Last of Us is going to get remade. Who in the crap asked for that? Things like that. So that's kind of head scratching. If that that's a rumor. If it comes to fruition, I'm gonna point right to all that regime change. Like that's you guys. Why did you do this? So that's bad to me. Everything I'm seeing in PlayStation Land as far as that goes is bad. I don't like any of it. I like Shuhei being over indies because I love indies, but that's about it. He's more deserving to be in the former role he was in. But that's, as a PlayStation fan, that's scary. I don't like seeing that. I don't like this more. The kind of the bottom line matters more than the quality of the product. So that seems to be kind of where they're going. I feel like I had some other point on that to say, but
well, this has also sort of been the whole like really leaning into everything needs to be a AAA sort of blow everything out of the water. And it's like, and it's games that sort of all feel a little samey is sort of, I think, a valid critique where you have this sort of third person camera kind of action adventure. And yes, there's different worlds. Like you have Horizon, you have God of War, you have Ghost, you have whatever. But it's like, yeah, all these games are awesome. But like there's actually a pretty surprising lack of diversity, which I think they're probably sort of started like, like Returnal was a third person action adventure game, but it was a third person shooter basically. And some of the stuff, it's like, it's kind of like, well, like your portfolio is getting a little stale here, guys. But yeah, and some of that is definitely like an outworking of the regime, and some of that is just sort of the zeitgeist. But yeah, definitely some of the Jim Ryan, and again, like it almost like, I think one of the criticisms, he doesn't seem like a guy who actually likes games or plays games. It's like he is a businessman, which is good because you need business savvy, but it's almost like it doesn't feel like he's really in touch with the consumer base at times. And so there's that. Yeah, that's definitely, yeah.
Like it's more important to make an Uncharted movie and Last of Us television series than to make games, maybe.
And if those things are good, and like, listen, there are arguments like The Witcher, the game actually spiked in sales after the Netflix series. There's precedent.
I'm not saying they're inherently bad things. And to be fair, I'm very much looking forward to the Last of Us HBO show.
But
it's those kind of moves where it's like you're putting your emphasis on that, and it's like, is that where we need to be going?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's like, yeah, I'm not opposed to those things as long as they're done well. I'm just like, but are they sort of detracting and distracting us from the actual PlayStation sort of what it's kind of like, yeah, who's asking for this stuff? So like, what's your, sort of moving into that, and you already sort of mentioned it is kind of some weird stuff they've done, but like, what's the kind of like just the head scratching sort of like, what are you doing here, Sony? Kind of like,
I'm going to go back to what Josh said with the upcoming PlayStation Plus
Yeah.
plans, as far as like the 3 tiers and all that stuff. It's now this may come as a slight to someone like Josh or any other Nintendo fan, but Sony is becoming like Nintendo in all the bad Nintendo ways. Um, this 3-tiered plan looks exactly like the Nintendo Switch Online plan we just got done panning.
I
It sounds
hadn't thought
exactly
about
like it. It's like, here's you want PlayStation 1 games? You've been wanting it for a long. Okay, here you go. It's in this top tiered. It is the very top dollar tier, and it's going to be a bad price. And oh, by the way, the library is going to kind of suck. And oh, by the way, the ports are kind of not great. It's going to be stuff like that, and it's like, that's not, the what was the other one? Shoot. I know what it was. Okay, so they're about to come out with the Uncharted whatever collection, with Uncharted 4 and Uncharted Lost Legacy for the PlayStation 5. These are both PS4 games coming out for PS5 with all the bells and whistles, blah blah blah. It's gonna be $50. Okay, whatever. If you own the game, if you own either of the old games, actually, you get the upgrade for $10. Cool kind of upgrade path, whatever. That's all fine and good. Well, guess what they did? They took Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy off of the PlayStation Store. So you currently cannot buy them for a real cheap price.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like another company I know that does that sort of stuff.
Totally does.
And it's like, Sony, you're picking up the wrong habits from Nintendo. You can be like them. You can think you're this bougie shop that has like games that people will like, yeah. So
Yeah.
You're not that, Sony. Sorry.
Please
just cut it out.
Please don't be that. Yeah.
So don't think you're so that you can just make these sort of decisions and that's everyone's gonna like drink your Kool-Aid. Like, if you come out and that top tier PlayStation Plus plan is like more than $60 a year, and it's got like Chrono Cross and Final Fantasy VIII on it, sorry, that ain't gonna cut it.
Right.
Like, you gotta have the gems. So I foresee that happening, though, that exact thing where it's $80 a year and the good games are Chrono Cross and Final Fantasy VIII. It's like, cool, okay, yeah.
I mean, yeah, just to sort of like jump off you there and sort of circle back around to kind of what I was saying earlier. This whole 3-tiered plan thing, I'm going like, what? Like, why? You're just sort of like, it's just, it's confusing. I don't really like, and like, here's the thing. I'm a little more optimistic about it. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I am like, if this is done well and the price point is like decent, this will be cool. But nothing like, listen, I have PS Now and it's kind of cool and I've done some streaming with it and I don't mind it. But I'm just saying, like, I just want to say to Sony, like, if you guys do not do this right, this will blow up in your face. Like, honestly, what I think the smarter sort of bet would have been is to, like, you want to do this sort of rebranding, sort of whatever, roll everything into the same service, give it a bit of a bump in pay. Like, because, like, here's the thing. Nobody really buys a year of PS Plus for $60 anymore. We wait till it goes on sale for $20-$30, and then we scoop up a couple years at a pop. So, like, look at that, and then look at the fact that, like, for people who are into the PS Now service, like the savvy consumers, like, we're snapping it up. Like, I bought another year of PS Now, I mean, for like $35 for a year. And so it's like, you can probably...
You don't play by the hour?
No, I don't play by the hour, you silly boy. You silly boy. That's a silly thing. But I'm saying, like, what you could probably do is sort of just like, you could probably justify a bit of a price hike. Say, like, you know what, we're gonna roll the plan up to, like, what it's at $60 a year right now. Say, kick it up to like 75 or 80 base price, and then, like, when the deals come up, people can snap that up. But, like, roll it all into one service, streamline it, tighten it up, give us a better, like, but instead it's like, we're gonna, like, it's a new system and it's like, we'll see. And at this point in time, we don't know enough about it to, like, really have an opinion. And I want them to sort of like dip into their history. But yeah, like don't give me the turd sandwiches. Like give me the gems, like, or just like I'm not interested. So, um, Josh, as far as like weird stuff that Nintendo does, or not Nintendo, Sony does, what is sort of like your kind of like closing thoughts here?
I mean, I probably just don't keep up with, I guess, news and stuff as much as you guys. So there wasn't much that came to mind. The first thing that came to mind, technically, it wasn't this year. It was last year with the console's release. The PS5s just look freaking weird. I'm sorry. They're just strange looking systems.
The space Medium doesn't do it for you, buddy.
Yeah. It's just straight, and it's huge and weird. And I get that you can get used to it. I'm not saying, they're weird consoles out there. I get it. It's okay. That's a move. But you know what? All this talk of exclusives and things has brought up something else in my mind. And maybe this is a little like left of center. It's not quite just Sony themselves, but I see it in a couple different places. You were talking about this, The Last of Us possibly being remade for PS5. I see that also a few other areas, like the Final Fantasy VII Intergrade version. That's like you can get a hefty bunch of DLC if you buy it on the new console. Like just weirdness of like, well, yeah, but you could also play the PS4 version on your PS5, but we're re-releasing the game with more content on the system you could already play it on. This is weird to me. I see the same thing with what's that called, the baby sack game, the Kojima Death Stranding director's cut. Yeah, of just like you can play this, you can play your PS4 game on here, or let's just re-release it on the new console with some additional content. It's just weird, and it's not like it hasn't ever been done before. I get it. You could say the same about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That was a Wii U game, but there Wii U had a very small install base, and Switch has a very large install base, so it makes sense. Whereas like with PS4 and PS5, it's I don't know. It's not exactly a console seller.
I would just say,
weird.
like, dude, like part of the weirdness surrounding all of that has been like the PS4 to PS5 upgrade path has just been nightmarish. Like it has been so weird and convoluted. And they're like, well, you can upgrade if you have this version and da 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 for this amount. And it's like, yeah, the integrate stuff, and it's just like, like.
How many of us made fun of smart delivery when Microsoft announced that? We're like, what a marketing term.
Big old hand delivery? In the air.
And now it's like, oh, that works pretty good.
Well, and it's like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm not opposed to like saying like, hey, we put some money into, we had to invest a little bit extra. Like, I will pay $10 for a generation upgrade. I would pay 15 if it was really good. But it's like, it's this weird, convoluted, like nonsense. And it's almost like you don't know what you're buying or getting into. It's just like, I'm like one of the things, it's just like simplicity. Keep it simple, stupid. Like consumers, like this whole confusion, like, yeah, I'm just like, oh man, like, dude, when I have to ask, like, when I have to like go down a wiki hole to try and figure out what version of this game I need to buy, like, no thanks.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's weird. One case that got me, or a couple of cases that got me, is I have a digital only PS5.
Okay, yeah.
And so I played and loved Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS4, so I was going to get the $10 upgrade. Well, I can't put my disc into my digital PS5, so I have no proof to say I ever owned it. So I got to buy the whole thing again for $70 if I want it, which ain't happening.
Yeah.
So like for it's a small boat for the person that went physical last generation and then went digital this generation. You're kind of screwed with that upgrade path. There's no way for you to prove that you own the game ever. So
yeah.
Dang. Well, I think just sort of a bonus weirdo moment. Have you guys, Micah? Have you heard about December's PS Plus games?
You talking about the Godfall?
Yeah, and how it's like the
Yeah.
gutted version of that game.
Right. Yeah, you can only get the PS4 version.
Well, and it's not even the full PS4 version. It's a gutted version of that. The Challenger Edition is not the full game. It's like
the starter pack.
It's like endgame content. It like gives you, and it restricts you. And if you want to play the full game, you have to go and pay the. I'm like one of those.
That sounds like some 2K marketing crap.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know.
I was like,
that's weird.
I did notice when I was redeeming it that it was the $15 version.
Yep.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, because
you
had to scroll down a little bit to go to it. It wasn't
version of the game. It's not the full version of the game.
It's
it's like this weird, like it's got like 3 modes and it's heavily gated access. And I was like, I was kind of like, hey, you know what? That's cool. Like, I'll check this game out now because it's on PS Plus because I was like mildly like, oh, this looks kind of cool, you know. It's and then I was like, nope, hard pass. Like, in fact, I'm not even going to redeem this. You guys can go suck it. Like, this is going to be like a PS Plus game that I just like hard no. Like, I'll redeem the other 2. That one can just I don't want it. I don't want it on my hard drive. No, like goodbye.
Last weird thing I'll mention for Sony, this is like the Sony crap on them hour. They talk about, PlayStation Plus is, PlayStation Now is a joke compared to Game Pass. One reason it's so is, okay, you can download games and stuff now. It's not always just streaming, but something like, for example, Marvel's Avengers came up on PlayStation Now. Well, there again, it's only the PS4 version.
Yep.
You can't download the new PS5 version on it. That's just weird. Like, why? Like, that's not a problem. It's not even a question. You don't have to think about it. If you got the Series X and it's on Game Pass, you can get that version. Stuff like that is just like, Sony, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. They just yeah.
I was just gonna say that game that you were talking, the gutted game, that was for December. If you want to play a game about gods falling, get your Switch out. There's a game called Shin Megami Tensei 5. Anyways, I know I talked about game a whole lot.
You know what? That sort of rolls into the next little bit here. I thought what might be a nice little palate cleanser is, end of the year. We've played a bunch of stuff, and I'm gonna, as soon as I find my phone, I'm gonna pull up my GG. I'm gonna pull up my GG, and I'm gonna sort of rattle through. He's got it. I'm gonna rattle through the stuff like that I've managed to play this year as soon as I pull up the list. I should have had this primed. Don't
worry, I will fix it in post.
Super good radio. So far this year, I've managed to beat 29 games, and some of these varying stages of completion. So I'll just rip on through here. Remnant from the Ashes and all the DLC for that. Dragon Quest V went through and did a completion run on the Unfinished Swan. Played through the Unfinished Swan, did a completion run on What Remains of Edith Finch. Beat Streets of Rage 4, Minute, Hue, XCOM 2, Technomancer, Nier Automata, and I did get the plat on Nier Automata. A Short Hike, dude, like that's a little bit of a sleeper. Guys, get that game. It is such a chill, cool, cute little experience. Like I'm half tempted to buy it again for my PlayStation just to play it again and get some trophies.
Totally got my eye on it. 100%.
Dude,
I want to pick that game.
It's just fun. It's like a super chill little game.
It's like $7.
Yeah, dude, it's tons of fun. Like, I mean, it's not like gonna like melt your face or like blow your mind, but I just had a super chill, cool little experience. Astro's Playroom completion on that. Miles Morales completion on that. Persona 4 Dancing, Moonlighter, Darksiders Genesis, Breath of the Wild, Ape Out, Control, and all the DLC completion on all that stuff. Sayonara Wild Hearts. Maneater was, dude, I'll tell you what, loved that game this like, it loved it so much I got the plat. It's It's good old fashioned stupid fun.
I want to play that one as well.
Dude, get
Real
on it,
soon.
man. Like yeah, pretty
Man-eater.
much. It's dude, it's a shark PG, and yes, that's exactly what it is.
Lovely.
Baldur's Gate, Dying Light. I'm still playing Dying Light, but I did beat the main campaign. Apotheon, I beat the main campaign for Vermintide 2, and then Sword and Sorcery. But the game, like, and I'm playing Metroid Dread right now. And honestly, it could have been, I think, sort of either one of these two. I think if I had started off with Metroid Dread and was a little more invested in it, it'd probably be a pretty strong contender for my game of the year. But dude, it's Returnal. My game, the coolest thing I played all year this year is what I'm playing right now, and it makes me mad because I slept on it. I've been sleeping on this game since like Logan sent me a copy for my 40th birthday back at the end of April, beginning of May. And I was like, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. There's all this other, and I'm like, why did I wait? Like, and it's like because I had other things to play. But this game, like Returnal, is my game of the year. It's awesome. And like I said, last year Hades was my game of the year. And there's a lot of similarities. They're both sort of roguelites. Two very different sort of like styles of play. But like the things like the music for Hades is far and beyond like much more memorable. Although the music and sound design in Remnant is really, really good, it does not, no candles held in comparison to Hades. But like there's that the slow drip of the story, like so many similarities, and it's like I'm just like I'm into it. Like, and honestly, when I'm done with it, Josh, we'll probably have a conversation about putting it on the list. Pretty much everything else I played this year, I'm kind of like meh. Like there might be some as like more place like Streets of Rage 4. Should that go on there as a bit of a representation of the beat 'em ups, side scrolling beat 'em ups or whatever? But yeah, my game of the year, folks, this year, and it's like I'm not even done with it, but I'm so into this game, and it could be one of those things I get to the end and I'm gonna be like, this is disgusting, and I hate it. I hate myself.
I want to Returnal this game.
I want to Returnal this game. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm into it. I'm super into it. Returnal is like 10 out of 10 would play again. 10 out of 10 will play again. Josh, why don't you sort of like you already, I think, sort of alluded to it maybe, but like your personal game of the year this year, what was it, man?
Have you heard? No, well, actually, because it was dropped in the Discord earlier. Earlier this week, it did get me thinking about the games that I've played. And while I won't run through all of them, there was the question that was thrown out about the top 5 games, and so I did do a short little ranking of the top 5 that I've played this year. Or I guess technically it was the top 5 that I'd finished this year because, well, except for the last one. Anyways, doesn't make sense because I didn't consider some of the games that I played and hadn't finished, except for my number 1. So I'll just run through real quickly my top 5 for the year. Number 5, I put Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon. Nice. And I was a bit conflicted about number 5 because God of War is a very good game. And so that one fell to my honorable mention. Bloodstained is only like a couple hours long. This is not the actual Bloodstained. This is Curse of the Moon
demake sort of looking thing. Yeah.
Yes. It's got sort of the faux NES kind of graphics to it. It's very reminiscent of Castlevania 3. Mm-hmm. And I just loved how like short and compact it was, but how much you could do with that game, the replay value, the replaying it and getting different story beats and stuff. It's just a really cool game. Number 4 is Radiant Historia. I finally played through and beat that game, and that is a little gem, certainly, with all the time travel components. Number 3, you guys would appreciate this, was What Remains of Edith Finch. We did an entire episode about it together. And just as I'm looking back on the games that I played, like that one just resonates so much with me. Like it sticks in there, there's so much to think about with that game. even though it's a tiny little game, a tiny little experience, there's a lot that's packed in there, lots of detail, and it says something about the human condition, which is what I appreciate. Similarly to my number 2 game, which was Nier Automata. And we have episodes about this as well, so we don't need to go too deep into it. But even if the gameplay isn't 10 out of 10, I think what this game tried to do, and I would say pulled off in a lot of different ways, it really, again, stuck with me. Oh my gosh, beautiful soundtrack as well.
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah.
The soundtrack is fantastic. And then number 1, drum roll please. Who knows? I don't know. No one knows. Shin Megami Tensei 5. I mean, come on. I've been waiting for this ever since it was first announced, when the Switch was first announced, if you guys remember. What was that, 2016? The end of 2016?
Yes.
Because Switch was what, like March 2017?
Well, it was just like, and it was basically like a splash screen, a few
Right.
seconds of animation, and then there's like boop.
Well, and like eyes, they were 3D models of a bunch of different demons, and just their eyes like peering at you from the darkness. Like it was telling you, like, ominous, this game is going to be dark, which it certainly turned out to be. But yeah, it has rekindled just my not my love for games, because obviously I enjoy games a lot, but I had not been playing very many games, and then this one, man, every spare minute that I have, for better or for worse, is going to this game currently. So that's my top 5. Micah.
Games y'all are currently playing, both your top game right now.
That's true. So recency bias may be in full swing. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Could be. Though with that said, I'll start with this one. I'll start with my number 1. It's also Returnal. So
Nice.
I played that back when it released in April, May, I guess, is the primary time. That game distilled everything. Didn't distill it, because it kind of expanded, I guess. It took the formula that Housemarque has done so well with their arcade games like Resogun and Dead Nation and Super Stardust, and it successfully translated that into this 3D roguelike shooter perfectly. Like, chef's kiss good. Like, I felt like I was playing one of their classic 2D arcade games like Resogun or whatever. It felt so tight. It was the visual cue of all of the different, like, kind of the bullet hell nature of all the projectiles coming at you from the enemies. You learn their patterns, which is exactly what you do in the 2D games. And it kind of has that same difficulty curve and kind of getting the hook of it in a similar way as those games. So I thought that was beautiful, first and foremost. Secondly, it's just so tight. Like, the roguelike nature, the narrative, all the bells and whistles of the PS5, all that stuff is really good and adds, but like, just the gameplay, like Hades or like Control, like, you get done with a battle, you get done with a room, and you're like, okay, and you're like, man, that was awesome. It delivers that.
Let's do that
like,
again.
Man, that was sweet. That just felt right. It felt smooth. I dominated. I was in control the whole time. There's, those perfect controls. It's a stellar package, man. They really delivered. It has a great difficulty, awesome bosses. The art design is probably some of my favorite of the year as well. Like, the direction, all that kind of stuff is fantastic. Returnal is a really special game, really special game. So yeah, that's my game of the year. A couple of other honorable mentions. It Takes Two. I haven't heard that one.
Snap. Yeah, I'm still playing that with Megan. So
holy smokes, this game is like pure fun. The game. Like, imagine it kind of reminded me, I mentioned in my review for the Reformed Gamers, reminded me of Astro's Playroom a little bit. Like, it's just like this, I'm just having so much fun. Like, every 10 minutes you're doing something literally different than what you were 10 minutes prior, and they repeat that like 40 times successfully. It's really a jam. Play it with your wife, play it with a friend, play it with a good gamer buddy, whatever. so good. I can't sing the praises of this game enough. Like the design, the like the mechanics and the gameplay design, all the ideas that they toss out there are like kind of, some of them are like out there and kind of wacky, but they all work, man. They all really work well. I was very impressed with It Takes Two.
You know, just to sort of like throw like an additional sort of like, you know, throw an additional rose at it here, you know, for better or worse, is like Megan and I tried to play Overcooked together, and I know a lot of people played Overcooked with their spouses, and it was like, you know, they're like, yeah, we kind of, it was like that game almost broke us. We were like, it was just like, we were just like, oh no. But we've been playing It Takes Two together, and like when we play, we sit down, we romp through a few stages or like, you know, scenarios. We have fun. It's very like sort of like you know, it's not just fun for me, even though I tend to be a little more hardcore. It's fun for her even, and I mean, she's playing like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, so she's not a total scrub, but it's like, yeah, we're vibing, and that's like, for them to hit that on that level of co-op, and with that, like the game is a beautiful game and like great design. So yeah, like it's like, honestly, the only reason I kind of forgot about it is because we haven't picked it up in a little bit. But yeah, that's a fantastic honorable mention. Yeah.
Yeah, two other games real quick I want to mention real fast. Just sort of honorable mentions. Game called Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch. You play. It's a Metroidvania. You take on the role of this rabbit with like a mechanical arm that you do a lot of punching and stuff with. This game was super good and surprising. I was kind of itching for a Metroidvania right before Dread came out, and this one delivered, man. It's really, really good. I don't play a ton of Metroidvanias, but it's the best one I've played since Hollow Knight. It's not Hollow Knight level.
No. Well,
but, it's
nothing
really,
is
really
except
good.
for Hollow Knight. So
yeah. So Fist is really good. Don't sleep on that one. And last one I'll mention is this really tiny indie game. You can beat it in like an hour probably if you kind of speed run it. It's called Speed Limit. And it came out earlier this year, and it's basically like a high action escape game. Think like 90s John Woo movies, like really like stylized action, but in like 16-bit graphics. So like you're trying to escape from like a train, like a moving subway train. You're running through the cars, and there's like gunning and stuff, and then you're on a plane like Afterburner style, and then you're on a motorcycle like Road Rash, and it's just takes a bunch of different sort of genres and kind of gives you these like escape from the bad guy kind of scenarios. Really high action, really difficult. But that game, I know of like literally one other person that's played it, but so I want to give it some props. Speed Limit.
what's
really good
what's
game.
that on?
Nice.
It's on PSN and Switch for sure. I don't know if it's on Xbox or PC. I would imagine it is, but it's definitely for PlayStation. It's definitely for Switch as well.
You know, look.
Yep, it was Xbox One, Series S and X as well, and it's on Steam.
Yeah, I would encourage you to watch the trailer for Speed Limit. That might sell you on it. But anyway.
Nice.
I'm adding it to my wish list. Don't judge me. I mean, I tend to.
Carl's made an excellent app here with GG. So good.
Well, I'm doing this on my Switch, so.
Oh, okay. I about to say, I hear Switch-like sounds.
Yeah, that's because I'm just pulling it up on my Switch real quick here. Or not quick. Yeah, I'll get to it. Speed Limit, you said?
Speed Limit. That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I will add it to my GG app here. But yeah. Well, gentlemen, I think we have sort of said about, just real quick, Josh, before, I know we had sort of mentioned when we talked about it earlier, Nier Automata is probably going on the list. Did we come up with an official placing for it, or did we just sort of ballpark it still?
Yeah, we ballparked it.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't nail it down. Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
right? Which way is it? 40. I think it should be like in the 40s somewhere. That's my personal opinion.
No, I would say that, yeah, it's probably top half. I definitely don't think it's like greatest of all time. Like, I don't know if I mentioned it or not. But like Hardcore Gaming 101, like it was it's like their number 2 game. And I'm like, dude, it's ridiculous. Like you're on drugs and you need to stop. But that was also like, it was like basically two people were on it that were like rabid fans. But it was like, and those two people also like besmirched Dead Space. So I'm like, you need to stop talking. Um, you, you ignorant.
Nier Automata, in my opinion, does things that other games have never done,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
is the reason why I think it needs to be high on the list.
Yeah.
But
It's,
anyway, that's just my opinion.
no, I think, you
Totally
know,
agree.
and we'll try to, when we do have that conversation, and we'll should probably, well, yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, when we come back to that, but, yeah, besides Nier Automata and some of the stuff that we're playing now, like Dread and Shin Megami Tensei and Returnal and stuff like that, like, I don't really, this year was good. Most of the games that I played were good. There were a couple where I was like,
Mhm.
meh. Um, but I don't really, like I said, aside from maybe like a placeholder for like Streets of Rage, which is a really great game, you know, but I just don't, you know, is it kind of like, does it stand in for all brawlers except for River City Ransom, which is the eternal number 100.
Mhm.
But uh, you know, so yeah, we'll kind of get around to that, and we'll probably tackle sort of revisiting the list here in an upcoming episode sometime
Mhm.
early next year. But you know, we have come. We came here with an agenda tonight. I think, gentlemen, I am fairly confident that we have pretty much left no stone unturned. Uh, no ignorance unshamed. You know, we have sort of we have uh, we have not slandered anyone, but we have ridiculed them. You know, rightfully so, I believe, and then praised them where praises were due. And you know, like I said, I just think this last year has been a pretty good year for games. It hasn't. It's not like, you know, total change, you know, sea change kind of, or like, you know, go down in history, but it's been an interesting year at the very least. And you know, Micah, I
Yeah.
do want to thank you for your time tonight. It's always a pleasure, dude. Uh, I love getting you on the mics here and chopping it up with you. Josh, you would say that you enjoy it as well, right?
Oh, certainly. Yes. Yes. This has been a great time. Thank you for spending hours of your evening with us and
Hopefully
morning.
you enjoyed your time with us, Micah.
Yes, man, all the time. I love hopping on and chopping up anything with you guys, really. But yeah, this is especially a satisfying episode talking about the big three. That's my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Try to keep up with the ins and outs of all three and what they're thinking. So yeah, I love prognosticating too, and kind of
Mm.
guessing what's going to happen in the future. So yeah, this is sort of an episode where you can kind of do a little bit of that. But yeah.
yeah, for sure. But you know, hey Josh, real quick before we sort of really button this boy up, did you have any sort of like, well, either one of you, Micah, since you're on here, any sort of community shout outs? We like to sort of like tack that on sort of as we're wrapping up. Um, you know, for me, I just want to thank everybody who sort of answered questions. I did not use all of the sort of questions, comments, and answers and stuff, but like, you know, it's been cool how some guys from the Discord. There is one that I didn't really think it fit anything that we were sort of talking about specifically, but I'm gonna. It looks like Isaac spelled backwards. Um, just
Mhm.
did mention, he said like what his weird moment was just like Sony pulling the cyberpunk kind of thing, and you know, like from the store, that was pretty unprecedented, and I, you know, probably definitely should have gone in the at least the weird category. But I dropped the ball. But you know, these guys, they sort of like, we throw this stuff in there last minute, and you know, we always get a few responses, and you know, more than like one or two of them are useful and usable, which is good and appreciated. And I just, as a general, like, we just have a great community. Micah and Josh,
Mhm.
I mean, you guys, I mean, Micah, you've been here pretty much since the beginning, like, you know, but yeah. So you guys got any community shout outs that you just like, hey, good on you, breakdown folks?
I mean, we still have a thread of all of us playing Shin Megami Tensei 5, which is a lot of fun. Racing each other after Wes beat it. That we're still talking about where we are in the game and some of the stuff that we've come up against. So that's been a lot of fun to kind of wade around in for me. But I think also not to name any names, but we started doing some prayer request threads, which I really appreciate. Well, I don't think I've posted much in them, but just like reading through them and remembering them in my prayer times, I don't know. I just think that's super cool that we're able to just be a little vulnerable with each other and share what we're going through.
Yeah, that's the guy who started that must be very handsome and smart.
With a glorious beard.
Well, then it's definitely not me. My beard is feeling a little scraggly these days. No, yeah, yeah. I just thought that would be a good thing to do. I know that like right now,
Yeah.
like I'm really coveting prayers, and I think what's really helpful is being able to turn around and just sort of like take my mind off my own crap and to be interceding in prayer for my brothers, and so like, yeah, just, yeah. And it's like, I don't, I want to guard people like, and this is what I would say with the prayer stuff. Like if you guys have something that's like, you're not really wanting to share with a group, like, and you want to DM me or Josh, yeah, we could definitely like pray for you specifically, or just say like, hey, just be praying for me on a situation I don't want to be sort of, I don't really want to go into detail on. And but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you guys, you guys are good bunch of eggs. So, well, Micah, did you have anything to add before we sort of?
Yeah, real quick. Just want to shout out the our fantasy critic league that
Yes,
we're in, Nate.
yes.
The Deer Critics. We were talking about them a little bit pre-show, or maybe in the maybe in the patron feed. Anyway, yeah, Alex Castellanos, Eddie, Luke Strain, Adam Sutherland from TRG is over there with us. Yeah, those guys are awesome. We have a great time over there. Josh, we were talking, we might be roping you into the next season. We'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exciting. So yeah, just a great time over there. Again, if you are into fantasy sports, like fantasy football, or whatever, this is kind of the similar thing, but with video game review scores.
So it's
So
like
you
100%
draft
more
a game that
awesome.
you draft a game that you think is going to review well, like an Elden Ring or a God of War. You put it on your roster, and it gives you scores, and you go up against other people and in the league, and it's a lot of fun. So, want to shout out those guys. We have an awesome time over there in the Deer Critics. Been doing that for this will be the 4th year. We're starting up soon.
Nice.
So yeah, very excited, very cool time over there. So yeah, shout out to those guys.
No, definitely. Yeah, that's been a real fun, like, chill thread for me to hang out in and sort of like be a goofball.
Yeah.
But well, Josh, I think we have sort of, again, we have done all the things that we came here to do tonight. Before we go, Micah, where can they find you on the interwebs if you want to be found?
Yeah, I am in the Facebook group. I'm over on Twitter a good bit at Doug's Vest. Not so much in the Discord for the backlog breakdown, but I will pop up from time to time. Hang out over at the Reform Gamers a good bit. Do some writing for them on their website. I'm actually, a little bit of a tease. Might be doing something for them for TRG on their YouTube here pretty soon on a more regular basis. But anywho, yeah, you can find me over there at Doug's Vest on, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, all that kind of stuff, the GG app. So yeah.
Word.
That's awesome.
Josh, how about us? Where can they find us?
Yeah, the kind of similar places on Twitter. Our handles at BB Downcast. You can email us directly if you want to, just at thebacklog@gmail.com. We do have that Facebook group, the hashtag Backlog Book Club. There's a Discord where we like to hang out, and there's a link for that in the description as well. And then, if you want to personally reach out, I generally go on the internet. My handle on the internet, wherever you can find me, I generally go by Broccolope, and Nate goes by
Nate_McKeever.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. There's that thing. It's like it's been good, it's been fun, but it hasn't been good fun. That is not true. It has been good fun, good clean fun. It's been great fun. So, but Josh, yeah. All that being said, we've done what we set out to do tonight. In the meantime, what should they do?
Guys, keep beating down your backlogs, and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.
Indeed.
Ennui.
Yes, that was the word I meant last time. Ennui. Oh.
Yeah, just re-listening. I was like, okay, I think that's what he
Yeah.
meant. Because I recently just heard that word used and like defined. Like I know I had heard it from time to time, but I didn't exactly know what it means.
It wasn't
until like a month ago.
Really like melancholy, but it was like ennui is sort of like a gradation of melancholy, where it's like I'm a little like, yeah.
Well, it also has to do with like almost like an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's a boredom that is not due to lack of means, if that makes sense.
No,
It's closer almost to like an existential kind of like, what is the purpose behind all this?
existential apathy.
Yeah, there you go.
Ennui. Silly French words.
Crazy, yeah.
But
French people.
Micah, you know the drill. We'll probably hang out after this and do a bit of a bro hang. You are more than welcome to join us or keep going or whatever. But if you need to bounce too, that's cool.
I think unfortunately I need to bounce, Nate.
No, that's fine.
It's
cool.
I do have to work.
It did
in the
go
morning.
long.
So yeah.
Yeah, we did go a little long.
Late.
But so, well,
no, I appreciate it though. Yeah, I really would like to hang out and talk. I promise, but yeah, I need to hit the hay.
no, it's all right, man. So,
no worries, man.
Just thanks for your time, man. So it was a pleasure. It's always good to do this. We gotta, like I said, after I'm done with Returnal, we'll pen something. We'll get something. We'll get a time. So
yeah,
but
yeah, definitely. All right, dudes.
All right.
Check you. I don't got to do anything on my end for it to be good with recording. He's
got to stop the recording, but then.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So I'll do that.